Thank you for joining us for the first Amesbury Virtual Eco Festival in 2020. We're really excited to be able to provide this virtually. Just a little perspective and background that back in late March, we had talked about doing something around the Earth Day to celebrate 50 years of celebrating our Earth, or at least on one specific day. And unfortunately, due to our COVID situation, we had to switch gears, which it seems like many people are doing the pivot right now. And so we did that pretty quickly. And thanks to the efforts of the mayor and our internal team and Nathan Gray, who's going to be one of our presenters today, we were able to switch to a virtual festival. So we have some great speakers from not just here at Amesbury, but also throughout the region that are going to be focused on how we can live sustainably and how we can use our natural resources wisely. And so we'll be switching gears between the speakers through a specific slide here. But I did want to mention really quickly before I introduce our mayor and kick it off today, that really we do have a goal of, and especially here in the Office of Community and Economic Development, are committed to creating a sustainable and strong community, especially in the wake of the most recent issues. So we do have existing committees like our Energy Committee that is focused on looking at how we are using our energy wisely, and hope to look at some additional committees and efforts in the coming years as we think more comprehensively about our community. Throughout this festival, we encourage you to use Facebook Live to ask us questions, send us tips. We'll continue to remind you to do that, especially as we wrap up each speaker. But please feel free to add any sort of tips that you think might help our fellow listeners and participants today. So with that, I'm going to introduce our mayor, Cassandra Goat.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in to our very first virtual Eco Festival. We're really excited to have so many businesses presenting today on all different topics. And want to remind you that Amesbury is a green community. You may or may not have known that. We are very committed to sustainability, and we actually have a 20% citywide energy reduction goal that we have been working towards. In the past couple of years, we've created and opened new solar fields. We initiated and completed an LED streetlight project, and we've done a few other things too. So we're always looking for new ideas and opportunities to be better stewards of our community. So I'm really looking forward to hearing everyone's presentations today. Maybe we'll get some new ideas here. And I would love to thank our Director of Community and Economic Development, Angela Cleveland, who you just met on screen, for spearheading this event. I'd also like to thank Nathan Gray from EcoBrick, who we mentioned you're going to hear from, but he's been working really closely with us on this. And also thank you to our presenters and of course Amesbury Community Television for helping us bring this to so many people across town. So enjoy our festival.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Gove. We're excited to kick off our festival with our own Amesbury Youth Recreation Program and Department. Today we're gonna have an introduction from Kathy Crowley, who is the Director of Youth Programs, and then we're gonna switch gears to patch in a video that Christina Moore, who is the Director of the Camp Kent, who's going to be doing a great video on how to repurpose recyclables with one of our own students here in Amesbury. And so with that, I'm going to introduce Kathy and ask her to do a quick intro.
Hi, everybody. This is Kathy Crowley, the Amesbury Youth Recreation Director. We're honored today to be a part of the Eco Festival, the first one in Amesbury. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about Amesbury Recreation. We run all youth programs that like before and after school, 55 summer programs. We hire the lifeguards, we do permitting. But one of the other things we do is we maintain and do programming at Camp Kent Nature Center. Camp Kent Nature Center is on the Powwow River, and it's a beautiful area with 5 different types of meadows and things that you can go to. And today we would like to announce Christine Amore, who will be the new director of Camp Kent and caretaker there. So grab your kids and get ready. Enjoy.
Hi everybody, my name is Christine Amore. I am going to be the new camp director and caretaker over at Camp Kent Education Center in Amesbury, Mass. This is my friend Max. We wave to the camera. We both have our masks on today because we're trying to stay safe with all of the craziness going on in the world. We care about each other, so we don't want to get each other sick, right, Max?
Yes.
We're both feeling healthy, and we hope you are too, though. We heard about this Eco Festival, and we're pretty excited. Do you recycle at your house?
Yes, I do, and I make a lot of stuff out of my recycling.
Ooh, you make a lot of stuff with your recycled materials.
Yeah, and I made a spaceship yesterday afternoon.
Wow.
So it has the propeller that you can find little propellers that are from.
What was that, an old toy or something?
Yeah, it's from an old toy that I had, and you can find sticks.
And then you have your plates for the wings.
Yeah, the plate. You just gotta find a plate, cut it in half so you have two wings.
Mm-hmm.
And you can use cans for the rockets and
A big box for the body of it. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So Max, this is pretty cool. He got creative without even knowing about the projects that I had in mind. I just asked him to assist me on this. So that's awesome. You're already experienced. We're going to give you guys about 3 or 4, depending on how much time we have, examples of how to make cool nature activities with things that you're going to find in your recycling bins.
do the clipboards.
Okay, what do we need for the clipboards? I think we need a piece of cardboard. And what do you have here?
A piece of cardboard, and and if you have anything that flips.
Clips like here, we'll show you up close. We have these little office clips, clothespins, and a chip clip.
Okay.
So Max is choosing the chip clip for this. We just have an old Triscuit box that's flattened down. And I don't know, you don't have to, but do you want to make a clean line with scissors?
Yes.
He's just going to make it the shape he wants. And you can use whatever scissors you have at home. These are my little craft scissors. And we'll also be using some twine or rope, thin rope you might have around, that we'll be attaching to the writing utensil and then attaching to the cardboard. What kinds of things would you want to do with a clipboard out in nature, Max?
You would probably want to just have a little clipboard so you could write down details of animals that you see.
Details of animals that you see, or plants, right? Or maybe, would you even consider taking a leaf and clipping it to the clipboard to take back for later observations?
Yeah.
Cool.
Or you could take a picture of something and clip it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, good idea. So, want to just show everyone how it's so simple. You just clip the paper onto the clipboard. Okay. And then, would you like to chop however long you want the rope to be? Imagine that it's up here. You could even put it right in this hole. Oh my gosh, I didn't even think of that. There's a little hole on the top of our chip clip that we're going to attach our writing utensil to. I'll do the knot for you if you want to chop it. Then, where's your pencil or marker of choice?
We'll use right here.
Want to just use a piece of tape and attach it?
Sure. Might be a little better, but I'm going to tape and tie.
Yeah, that's great. So he's going to tape and tie to be safe, but now he has a clipboard that he can take out into nature and an attached writing utensil. So I guess you're going to go have some fun with that. We'll show you the next activity in just a minute. Okay, we're back with our second activity, and this is an insect catcher. You can use it to explore in water, shallow water, with a parent or a guardian with you, obviously for safety. And basically, we will use, what do you have for materials over here?
Have a yogurt container, that you
Nice.
can use, and an ice cream container.
Awesome. Just plastic containers. So,
We tried to use a hole puncher for this, but it was too thick. So you can still use a hole puncher if you have something that's not as thick.
maybe like a little teeny tiny yogurt container would work. But for these purposes, we decided we wanted to use this big one because we could put a little bit of water in it and then see if we find any insects that live in water. Or we could go into the forest or wherever we are, maybe the beach, and find insects in the sand, in the dirt, in the trees, wherever.
And the other thing you need is
String.
thin
you already-
rope,
thin
and
rope?
scissors.
Yeah, perfect. So Max is a professional. He already knows all the materials before I do. What would I do without you, Max? So this container, like I said, was kind of thick. So like he said, was kind of thick. So I actually just took scissors and I chopped holes on both sides for Max, but he's gonna do the rest.
So you gotta, if you know how to tie a knot, tie a knot. But if you don't know how to, ask a parent or guardian, and they can do it for you.
This looks great. It'll kind of be like a little handle that you can drag in through the water or just like carry around if you have enough stuff in your hands, right?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
I'm gonna hold one end for you. Oh, you got it. You're gonna double knot it. Double knotting is for extra safety. Yeah, so of course, if you were out in the water, in the shallow water, and you found some cool stuff, that's great to look at for a little while, but then you want to pour it right back into its home, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, so, and the good thing about something plastic like this is, of course, we cleaned everything first, but then we can empty it out, dry it, and then use for dry materials and insects. Like, maybe we even find some worms. Something cool like that.
Oh yeah, and you can use a paper clip or something. Plus, if you don't have a long enough piece of rope, you can use a paper clip, tie another piece right here,
Yeah,
and then you have it.
yeah. You can even attach it to your backpack if you're on a camping trip with your friends. And what was the other thing? So the good thing about then, if you're done, and of course you put the animal away, you can cap it and save it for your next adventure. The cool thing too about it is that maybe you're down somewhere where you don't have a guide or somebody who might know their insects really well, or maybe even leaves or acorns or whatever it is that you're checking out. You can carry it for, I don't know, let's say like up to a couple hours at the most, depending on what you've got in here. You can bring it back to your books or your friends and check in with them and see if they know what they're looking at. It's a nice way to identify things in nature. We're back again and we're going to show you how to make a
Bird feeder.
backyard bird feeder. So we just have an old almond milk container. It could be any kind of milk, really, or just some kind of similar box. What we were doing before we started recording was looking around the house trying to find things that were pointy enough, because the cardboard is actually really thick, so we can't use our scissors safely, and we can't use our hole punchers without hurting our fingers and hands. So we went in the drawers and we found this. I don't even know what it is.
I think it's a chainsaw sharpener.
A chainsaw sharpener. It actually looks like a little knife sharpener. Regardless, what we did was, this was something that I did. Max couldn't do. He's going to do the rest of it though. We went through the top and poked a hole. Okay, and then we took our string that we're going to attach our bird feeder into the tree with. We wrapped it around the sharpener or whatever pokey thing you can find. And then we string it through. I can't find the hole. Oh, it's in some sort of a little fold. Okay. Here we go. Okay. And then it comes through the other side.
And if you don't have any birdseed or anything, you can
Get creative.
and use popcorn kernels and oatmeal.
Yeah, so I didn't have any bird seed before I came over to do this craft. So I looked up things that could be in our pantry that we might be able to use that birds can eat. And it turns out all birds can eat oats. And birds can definitely eat and digest popcorn kernels, except you'll specifically be targeting larger birds, which will be fun. And obviously as little birds come into the door that we're gonna create, we'll leave a little lip so that the food sits in here. As birds come in, the seeds and oats will fall down, so it'll be available for all kinds of little critters. So, you know, you might want to have this in a spot that is safe and in the backyard away from your house. So do you want to draw the door on the front, Max? And I'll help you cut it out.
Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna do a rectangle, then a triangle on top of it.
So it's kind of like a house?
Yeah, you can do anything you want.
Okay.
The shape.
All right, let me cut that out for you. So this is not the safest way to use scissors. I just do this stuff all the time. I really like to craft. So I'm kind of experienced in it. I poke a little hole and then I find enough room, just enough room to be able to cut the shape that Max has cut out. Max, I'm just going to leave a little bit on the bottom so that the seeds don't fall out. And all of these activities, we're showing you just the creation process, but then there's the decoration part of it, where you can add paint and glue and stickers and all kinds of things. So this is the awesome door that Max created. And now, why don't I'll grab this little bowl and we can pour some of both ingredients. I'll pour some ingredients into it and then you pour it into the house. Want to do that?
Yeah.
Cool. And then Max is going to keep all these creations and he's going to use them in his yard and in nature and wherever, right? There you go, bud. How does that look for levels?
Maybe one more cup.
Okay, how about we do the popcorn instead? And then you can add like sunflower seeds. What other kind of things could you imagine that would go well in a birdhouse, Max? Do you have any ideas?
Yeah, I know it would go well. Maybe chia seeds.
Ooh, yeah, maybe hemp seeds?
Yeah.
I don't know, just the whole purpose of us showing you these cool activities is just the creative factor, that you can find stuff around your house and make some pretty cool activities come to
There's already a
life.
hole.
I know, I just made that hole bigger because it wasn't even actually supposed to be there. There you go, bud. Alright, and then after we're done, we'll probably find a tree to put this in. Thanks for watching. We'll be right back with one more project. So the last activity is going to be doing little seed starts. So I am going to use a little egg carton, and I cut it in half because it fits in this tray that I'll be using to effectively water. I'll give you those tips in a minute. But I had my assistant Max with me because I wanted to show you that activities like this are so fun to do, and it is especially exciting and rewarding for the child to be able to do most, if not all, of the project by themselves. You can adapt any material or bit of the process to make it more exciting for the child, and that really aids in the whole process. And then it makes it more special when they bring their clipboard out into nature and do their journaling and art and observations, or take their bug catcher on a camping trip or a fishing trip, or just out in their backyard if you're lucky enough to live somewhere beautiful, like the woods, the beach, a little vernal pool in your backyard. Anyway, so for this next activity, we will be doing planting. So I have my compost soil in here with some added coffee grounds. So I like to use coffee grounds, compost, and soil all mixed together to add some natural materials before the plant even starts giving to the soil. This is really good with the natural materials like broken down plants, like fruits and veggie scraps. We're already adding a lot of nutrient into the soil, and the coffee specifically adds nitrogen, which is a component in chlorophyll, the green pigments in plants that helps grab energy from the sun. So fill it up to about the top, and then I'll stick it in my tray because that's where I'll have it kind of live until it starts sprouting. Use my finger and just make a nice little hole in each. And like I said, or like we said throughout this whole activity or presentation, we like to give you tips for just finding stuff around the house. The soil obviously was in my backyard in my compost, and I'm keeping it in this compostable to-go container that I could also plant in if I wanted to. The beauty of the egg carton is that then you can split each piece with scissors even, or your hand if it's nice and saturated, and just stick it right into the ground because the egg carton will decompose over time. Oops, it's not bad for the soil. So before Max left, he actually made some corn starts. So, you know, we just have like a little tin that is filled with my seeds, and I reuse them every year. So I found some rosemary. I think we'll do rosemary also. So we gave you tips on how to mix a nice little soil for yourself, and I'll give you tips on how to get a successful plant. Put a few seeds in each hole. That's always a guarantee. And then if you do end up having to split the plants, no big deal. And then you just do a light covering over each seed with the soil that's pretty much already in there. But it is kind of loose, so I think I'll just add a little bit more. And I'll show you the nice method of watering. So there's the tray. Now I'll just add water into this tray. Okay, you can see how deep it is. It's probably like a little over an inch. I'll add about 1 centimeter of water throughout the bottom. This way, the plant in the soil is gathering the water up from the bottom and not getting totally saturated on the top level. That's not good. The seeds won't germinate that way. Anyways, if you want to create your own compost pile at home, you just have to have a little enclosed area with a little soil or whatever you can find to start, and then add grass clippings, leaves, food scraps, like I was saying, veggies or fruit. I do eggshells, coffee grounds, all kinds of stuff. Anyways, thank you so much for having us be part of this Eco Festival, and we hope to see you at the camp soon.
So we are going to switch gears a little bit early to Nathan Gray, who is the founder of the House Factory Foundation and EcoBrick US project. He is also my partner in crime, or our partner in crime, on this project, on this first Eco Festival virtually here in Amesbury. And we're really excited to have him on board with us today. And Nathan wanted to just make sure that you are on and invite you to kick it off.
I am here. Thank you for turning on my camera now. There we go. We are on. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you, Mayor Grove, as well, for the recognition. Starting a couple seconds early here, so getting into the routine. But my name is Nathan Gray. I'm the founder of House Factory Foundation. We're a nonprofit that focuses on affordable, sustainable, innovative housing. And I just want to say that I was having a little bit of internet problem as well. So if I do kick off, just give it a second and it'll come back. So the House Factory Foundation, the nonprofit, we focus on affordable, sustainable, and innovative housing. I'm also the project lead at EcoBrick US, and I will be teaching you all how to build this, which is an EcoBrick. It's a simple yet effective tool that helps to be a solution to our plastic waste crisis, as well as packs the punch of educating our youth about plastic waste in our environment and teaches us awareness about our plastic consumption at home.
Nathan, quickly, we can't see your screen. I think I made you the presenter, so if you can share.
No worries. Sorry about that. I thought it was on. And this is sometimes I have to turn on camera. See me now? No. Share. Oh, it's a new thing. There we go. Hi. There we are. This is an EcoBrick. And here's some EcoBricks in front of me. Now I'm on. There we go. So just to give you a little bit of background about House Factory and what it is. As a home builder, veteran and dad, I decided after 20 years to follow an overwhelming desire to spend more time with my young son and beautiful wife. Through building a large construction company from scratch, with all the knowledge and wisdom as well as heartaches that came along with it, it's something that I just couldn't shake, and I didn't want to throw away all the experience and knowledge that I came to know. It's definitely a strong responsibility I had to my family and people around me, struggling to pay their mortgage, struggling to maintain their homes, pay the food bill every week and utility bills every month. So I thought to myself, I live in a smaller than average home with excellent insulation, innovative heating and cooling systems, triple pane windows, solar systems, and home furnishings that I built out of reclaimed wood. I know my wife, with a nutrition and physical fitness background, could cut our food costs enough to make a difference and stay healthy. So the large garden took priority, and it was built right outside this window here. With this affordable, sustainable, and innovative approach to our lives, we dramatically cut costs, and our nonprofit House Factory Foundation was born. Now, along with teaching our children about the effects that plastic is doing and having on our environment, working directly with towns and Massachusetts agencies like the Environmental Protection Agency, Waste Management Division, leading beach cleanups and city cleanups. We are teaching at 2 locations in Beverly and Newbury, and we are teaching how to build reclaimed wood furniture, tiny homes on trailers, and we're also consulting on affordable housing methods to include modular and factory-built homes, sustainable energy products, and solar. So focus more on the EcoBrick. It's kind of my backstory and how we got here. And this EcoBrick was actually supposed to be a smaller side project that ended up really catching the eye and interest of so many people. Wherein it's, of course, with the current COVID situation, we're not teaching in schools as much. We're not physically there, but we are doing more of these events and webinars and being able to show people how to do this at home with their own plastics. And I encourage you to look around your house and grab some plastics. I'm going to go through different plastic types that we have that we can put inside these EcoBricks. I'm going to tell you more about what we can do with them, what we can build with them, what our current projects are, what our projects are in the future. So just encourage you to grab some plastic and grab a empty water bottle, and we'll get to making them shortly. So this project is grown to over 40 schools in Massachusetts, mostly on the North Shore. Teachers are taking them on in classrooms. Kids are building them inside of classrooms. I've been and taught kids how to build these in their classrooms, and they really take to it. They're super excited about a simple yet effective tool and the ability to I'm going to start my timing here too, so we don't miss it. A simple, effective tool to be able to help to save the environment and really make a difference. So we're going to take all these EcoBricks that we're collecting. We need 12,000 of these EcoBricks for the house that we're going to build in Newbury, and they're all going to be stood up like this. The bottoms of the bottles will be stacked in silicone together, And in the case of the Newbury home, we're going to be using spray foam insulation in the middle of them as well. So it's going to act as an insulation barrier. There's going to be a hard surface on the outside of it, which is going to be recycled concrete to create the structure of it. But these will be within the walls, and you'll actually be able to see this right here inside of the structure and the walls. So I mentioned that there's 2 locations that we teach at, and Newbury is where this EcoBrick house will be showcased, and you can come by, take a look at it. Once things kind of get back in the state and cities allow us to start to have larger gatherings and such, we can do virtual tours as well. The foundation is being started shortly, and you can actually come and help build this as well. So you can build the EcoBricks, donate them to us, give them to us. We have collection points in Beverly and Lynn, and we can use those bricks for this portable EcoBrick plastic water bottle home. It's going to save 4,000 pounds of plastic from getting into our environment, into our landfills, and into our incinerators. So let me get you started on how to make one of these, how you can help, and show you what you can do with it at home as well. So we've got a plastic water bottle. This one's already stuffed a little bit. Now we're going to need clean, dry plastics. It's all soft plastics. I'm going to come up a little bit closer here so we can really show you what it is. And there's different size water bottles as well. So you've got a 16-ounce water bottle, your typical water bottle, and it's a little bit more of a pliable plastic. It's not as thick as the soda water bottles. These are 20-ounce water bottles. All this information can be found at www.ecobrick.us. It talks about the size of the bottle. You want to be able to take a measurement from the bottom of the bottle to the top of the bottle, because the specific water bottles that we're collecting for our project, if you are going to donate them, then there's from 7 inches to 9 inches tall, and 16 to 20 ounces. This is a 16, this is a 20, just a little bit larger. These soda bottles do, they're a little bit stronger, they hold a little bit more, but we want to get them to be at least 5 ounces in size. So what can go inside an EcoBrick? We have wrappers from, this one is a beef stick of some sort, a meat stick. There's some plastic bag, wrapping paper. There's plastic wrapping paper. We really want to stay away from the mixture of paper and plastic. We only want to use more of the plastic product. So if it'll rip or tear, then we want to stay away from those. The idea is that these are going to last for hundreds of years within this structure. They can actually be repurposed again after they're seen their day. Like if we ever take down this tiny house, then we could repurpose them in another manner. Big thing is the delivery packaging, the Amazon packaging, especially now a lot of us are at home and don't want to go out as much. We are even consuming more plastic through our deliveries, and there's actually some stuff from Easter here, and wrapping that doesn't tear, some other plastics. Here's a broken Easter egg. This harder plastic can be cut up and put into there. And cellophane wrapping is another one. Inside of cereal boxes, really any soft pliable plastic. There's a lot of kind of plastic material that has this kind of silverish backing to it, and that's okay as well. So chip bags and all that sort is sufficient. So that's the different types of plastics that can go inside of it, and there's really no limit to what can be put in there. We just don't want any food waste or anything to that manner. We want it clean and dry. So we have our plastics, we have our water bottles. We're going to need some kind of wand or some kind of dowel or stick. Here's a spoon from the kitchen that we could use. Just anything that will fit inside of the bottle, as well as has to be taller than the bottle, right? Because when we're forcing the plastic down when we're putting it in, we want to be able to touch the very bottom of the bottle. And there's two different types of bottles on the bottom. You've got this more rigid bottoms, it's where it kind of protrudes out there a little bit, and you really want to make sure you get right into those pieces there. And there's a flatter bottom here, so just make sure your dowel or stick is going to reach down to the very bottom. So this is a cut-off baluster, just a piece of reclaimed wood that we use. These are great tools right here if you have any leftover piping. This is just 3/4 inch brass piping, and it has a end to it, just a cap, and it comes off. And I use, just for this case where it's not going to hold any pressure, I use electric tape. I wrap the electric tape around there, then put the caps on and kind of bang those down, and they stick pretty well without coming off. And the same for the top. I put this T on the top, and this allows for you to really push down on the top of it when you're going into the bottle. So there's that. And so we're going to take some of our plastic and we're going to cut up. I've already got some cut up here, but at home I would take no larger than your hand for the size of plastic that you're going to put in there. You can rip it, you can cut it, either way, it works pretty well. With the kids, it is easier to make these when the plastic is really cut up into smaller pieces. It helps to stuff it in. The larger the pieces, the harder it is to fill these, and we want to get them to 5 ounces. It's really dense. Like, these are really packed together. They're rock hard. There's some more how-to videos all over the web and on our website as well. So we're going to take the plastic and we're going to put it inside of the bottle until we get to a point where it needs to be stuffed down completely. And so when we work the plastic into the bottle, we want to work on the sides. We want to push on the sides, and that really gives it. They were just pushing down in the middle. It kind of comes down and then gets pushed back up, comes down, gets pushed back up. It will do this continuously for a very long time. You'll be amazed by the amount of plastic that gets fit in here. You'll be amazed by the amount of plastics that we actually consume and use too, even in your own house, even if you are aware of this. And it's amazing the amount of plastics that we use. So this is kind of the awareness factor of it as you're stuffing this bottle full of all the plastics that you use and the hard work that gets put into it. And then you go to the grocery food store and you're looking around at the products, and one's wrapped in plastic and one isn't, and you're like, okay, my arm hurts, I don't want to buy it. And so this is kind of the awareness portion of it. And so you really want to push down on the sides. You can put this down on a table and really push down really tight and hard into it. The softer bottles you want to be careful of, though, because they will rip on the side, and then you have to start all over again, and that's not fun when you have to start all over again. I will warn you in advance, this could take an hour, 2 hours to get your first one done. Over time, you will get faster. Over time, you'll use less plastic. But I do encourage you to take all the plastic, all the soft plastic that comes into your house, and put these into the bottles at least for a week and see how much plastic you actually use. So we're going to push them down on those edges, and we're going to start to get it really packed tight in there, and continue to add more plastic after that. We're going to add more plastic, and we're going to squish it down again. And when we get to the very top, with it all compacted, here's the example of the not completed EcoBrick properly. This one has some squeeze to it, has some give to it on the bottom. We really don't want that. We want it to be rock hard. So the idea is to get it like this. This is a solid piece. There's a lot of different plastic in here. There's some pictures on the website that show the amount of plastic on a picnic table that goes into just 3 of these. Quite incredible. And so we want to leave a little bit of room on the top, because over time the plastic will kind of expand again, and then sometimes it can push off the top, especially with these smaller water bottle tops. Like I said, the more hardy, I don't want to say just soda bottles, because salsa bottles and such are a little bit more durable. Those caps aren't going to come off, but we're going to be careful with these small caps because they will come off. And so this is, I'll explain the completed product. Once you're done with them, you can drop them off. In Beverly, we have a collection point. It's going to be going out soon again. We took it down because of the COVID, and just wanted to get a better grasp on how to handle the plastics and how to be able to make sure all our volunteers were safe. But we will be putting that up within the next week or two as we feel more comfortable with the situation. And so these bottles will be stacked together like this. There's some pictures on the website as well, and it shows face down, and they get silicone or spray foam in the middle. And again, this will be the size of a piece of plywood, so 4 feet wide by 8 feet tall. And those are the panels that will be used inside of the house. So it's a really good insulator and stewards our plastic really well. We can do with the EcoBrick is we make furniture. We can make the Eco mod that together really nicely that I'm going to show you here. One second. Let's clear some space here. That way we can have the room. Another thing that we our EcoBrick, a simple scale that it shows us ounces. This time I got at CVS and it was $12 at CVS, and it really helps with getting the weight to the right weight, because we need at least 5 ounces. It's really important to get that 5 ounces at least, but you can get it all the way up to 10. Okay, taking these down. So some of these right here are modulars that stack together. They're put together and they have one water bottle up a little bit higher. They fit right on top of each other. So if you wanted to use them as table legs, this is a good way to be able to do it. If you go to EcoBrick.org and look up modulars, there's some examples of how to build them there. And here's some larger ones. Here's one. And then I'll knock over my water, please. And here's another one. So these are where you can really start to do bigger projects. We have spray foam insulation in between them. And what it is just so we have 2 down, 1 up, 2 down, 1 up, and it essentially looks like a Lego. Right? So we get the inside. The other ones fit right inside there. So they can go and make it in different patterns. You can make it into a chair. These ones are going to be for a chair that we're going to use at our homeless shelter, and we're going to wrap it with fabric and use cushions and stuff the plastic inside the cushions as well and put that on top. And that'll be able to store some plastic for quite some time, and it's useful for people. You could do kids benches, you could do cubbies, you could do a bunch of different things like that. There's garden walls that you can create out of these. I know we just had a conversation with a boatyard in Marblehead that wants to put all their plastic inside of an EcoBricks and be able to use them. They float really well, so it could be maybe used as a dock or a pier for the plastic flotation, or they can use it for their garden walls as well. You can use an adobe mix to be able to put it in there. We just had a webinar last week, and we met with Matt from Long Way Home, and his website's really great to check out. It's lwh.org, and they built their whole campus out of EcoBricks and recycled material and essentially all the trash from the town, and they pay their tuition by paying with EcoBricks and paying with their labor, and they go and can learn how to build and be able to do it that way. So they kind of catch up on some of the events and things that we have going on our website, housefactory.us. There's an event page, and you can check out all the different events going on there. This event was on there, and a lot of different webinars. And if you're interested, if you're a company that would be interested in coming and being part of a type of event like this a great opportunity to email us, and as we move forward, we're going to have more of these happening, and we have some city officials actually hopefully listening in. We have them listening in and kind of looking at this to be able to do in their city. So it's going to give Amesbury the recognition of being the first. So it's great source for people to be able to come together and talk about their business and talk about sustainability, and just great. We teach how to do EcoBricks for homes, for individuals, any kind of classes. If you want to get you together, your friends, do that. There's also school sponsorships where you can school that is taking on this project that might not have the resources to be able to start their own project, or have the volunteers come to be able to build the projects. So that's something that you can get involved in as well if you maybe don't use as much plastic and want to help support the cost. Again, the collection points, we do have them rolling out in Lynn shortly. The city of Lynn was a great resource and really first in their ability to take on these collection points, and that's where the Massachusetts Environmental Protection Agency got to be part of this, and they're helping to fund these collection points. So the collection points have little scales on them and a drop-off point, so easy drop-off. So Lynn's going to be the pilot program. We're hoping to bring these to other cities, and quite exciting. The state is interested in waste reduction. There's actually a waste reduction branch of the Environmental Protection Agency, which is quite interesting. Could show you the video of all the plastics that are inside of our environment and inside of our fish. The fish are eating them, and we're potentially eating them as well. And it's just something, really good way to steward our plastic. Just start with you, to take the responsibility of the plastic that you bring into your home, and compacting and stewarding it in this manner really helps. It will make a difference for sure. And we have on Facebook, EcoBrick on Facebook, and just please like us there. I think that as we move forward with the COVID-19 and learning how to live in the situation, our consumption mentality has really decreased in just positive manners. A lot of things are coming back to life as we're not using as much trucking and oil and gas and such, and you can really see the impacts on that. And another impact is that we're kind of learning how to be self-sustainable in a manner, and the self-sustainability is something that we really are trying to teach at our different workshops and different locations. Be it how to build a garden, or be it how to build an EcoBrick shed. You could build the EcoBrick shed at your house. We could work with you to collect the EcoBricks and work with you to help to raise funds to be able to steward this plastic inside of your own house, inside of a shed or another unoccupied dwelling. It's easier for building codes and such. Each town's different. We'd have to work with the building inspectors. We can't get anything built without the local building inspectors okaying it. And the other things that we're doing is we're building greenhouses out of reclaimed windows. So we have classes as of right now virtually to be able to teach individuals how to collect windows from their neighbors, and other people are doing all these replacement windows, and instead of them going into landfill, we're using these windows as the greenhouse walls, and we're looking for more locations for those as the windows pile up, and if you're able to help to be a source and be a space where we could teach others to do it, that's super helpful. And I think, what do we got for time here? I started my clock a little earlier.
You're doing well.
Okay, got plenty more. Great. So the other different classes that we're teaching is ponds. Like for instance, we have a a pond outside this window, and we're doing classes on how to not only dig the pond and put in the piping and the vat and be able to bring different wildlife back to our area. And a pond's such a great way to do that. It's quite incredible the amount of things come. We have peepers now, and the peepers are quite a course of nature. So the actual setup and the actual how-to of the pond, we can help you learn how to do that. And we did a reclaimed door fence. It's going to house our firewood for our house, and that stewards the doors, so stopping them from going into the landfill where they were headed to. But I stopped them and pulled them out, and it was a great way to reclaim that. And the idea is just to think about everything as reusable, and it doesn't have to look ugly. You don't have to be grungy, you don't have to be hippie. You can still make it happen, and have it look really good. So that's what we're trying to teach here, is all the different facets of sustainable living, to be able to positively impact our surrounding, our neighbors. We're bringing communities together through bringing individuals together, classes. When something new goes on, we've got tons of neighbors looking and trying to figure out what's going on, and why is there people over there, and what are you doing? And we're just trying to positively impact our communities and our environment. And the largest scale portion of this is the tiny houses that we're building more sustainably, and using the solar powered systems and solar thermal systems like InRoof solar. We'll be able to build from InRoof solar. We'll be talking to you a little bit later about that solar thermal system, which is an incredible system. It takes the power of the sun and generates heat and hot water. And got a beekeeper coming up as well. And speaking of that, it's just great to see all the different aspects. It's multifaceted in so many dimensions, and to be able to take other people's knowledge and experiences and ideas, especially the kids, right? When they build these, they're like, oh, what can we do with them? We can build a garage for our cars, or we could do this or do that. So it's great to get everyone on that aspect. And what else do we got going on? There's, you think you can speak forever. You actually have to keep going.
Yeah, you don't have to speak forever, Nathan. I guess I'd take a pause if we can. And I just checked Facebook to see if there were any questions, but Caitlin,
Yes.
keep us updated on that. One
Great.
question I do have actually is, what would you not want to put in the EcoBrick so that we can ensure that they're not contaminated? And I use that in air quotes, in case there's anything that really shouldn't go in there, for strength, for contamination reasons, whatever that might be. But what shouldn't go in an EcoBrick as people are developing those?
Yeah, great question. We want it to be clean, dry plastic. So we don't want it to have any food materials on it. The food materials are going to break down faster than the rest of the plastic. Just as if you put anything inside of dirt, it's going to break down more. It's an organic compound that's going to start to break it down further, and it won't last as long. And then just like any other typical brick, one soft brick or one broken brick could alter the structural value of it. So we want to make sure that it doesn't have any kind of food or organic material. Paper breaks down a lot faster than plastics do. Don't want to use any paper products. Again, if you can tear it, if you can tear it with your fingers, you want to stay away from it. If it's a kind of paper plastic mix, you'll feel the difference of it. There might be some paper backing to it and then some plastic on it. If you can remove the paper from the plastic, great. If not, then let's keep those out of here. I think any kind of sharp objects, or if you are going to use harder plastics and cut up the harder plastics, just be aware of the sharp edges to that, because you don't want to have any of those poking through the bottle and doing that. And then anything that's recyclable, you want to probably keep to your regular stream of recycling. So don't take the extra time and effort to cut down other bottles that you're not using. Use those inside the recycling, and stick to the normal stream of recycling. This is kind of a non-recyclable EcoBrick. I know the bottles can be recycled, but so the material I cannot be. Is there any other questions?
On average, what would you say if you were to make a chair or a table, something that, well, tables probably aren't used quite as much, you know, you're not sitting on it, you're just putting light things on it, but a chair, how long would you say that an EcoBrick constructed chair would last?
Yeah, these water bottles are going to last for hundreds of years. So if it's built right, then it should eventually last for hundreds of years. But sometimes, like especially the beginning models that we had, that we had to replace them a bunch. But any of these EcoBricks I could stand on, and they're going to hold my weight and not break. And definitely get 20 years out of it. No, if the material, if you do wrap it with material and that rips, of course, there's different reasons to replace it. But it's a great way to be able to use the plastic. And there's some great examples out there. If you look on the web, a lot of people just make them and sit directly on them. It is actually fairly comfortable. It's not a cushion, but you can always take those cushions and stuff them with plastic to make it last longer. And you can stuff more plastic in there as they start to pack down. So just as long as you maintain them over the years, just like anything else, I think it's going to last for a long time. It's not just a one and done and kind of throw away afterwards. We don't want to throw them away afterwards. We can reuse them for something else.
What's the most creative thing that you've seen produced with the EcoBricks?
I would say there's a couch out there on social media that is quite elaborate. It's a large couch and it has different portions to the back, and it looks ornamental to the back, almost like an antique. Another thing that an artist came up with that we've got to do at one point is that ideally you're putting solid plastics on the bottom of these, and they're gonna then create different colors. And so as the different colors come about, I guess this is what I would want to see. So that couch was what I did see, and this is what I want to see, is that if you had all solid plastic colors, all colors on the bottom there, you could create a mural. And looking for an artist to be able to put that together as we collect more solid colors and be able to create some kind of mural of a cityscape or maybe the Amesbury town crest or something.
I like it. There's some inspiration for our viewers today to figure out what we're going to do in Amesbury to build our first EcoBrick construction project. That's awesome. Any questions, Caitlin, coming in, or do maybe anybody else have any questions? We'd love to see you stand on one of those. I think that's pretty cool. Yeah? No?
Handstand, would it be even better?
Oh, yeah, you could do a handstand on it. That would be great.
No questions from Facebook right now.
Say it again.
I was just saying we don't have any questions from Facebook right now.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, they definitely will support your weight though. They hold there. Kind of shoes are an option here at virtual virtual events, but I gave up that now.
Awesome. You passed the challenge. That's great.
Yeah, there we go.
Well, as we wrap up to transition into our next speaker, first of all, thank you for logging on early and for all your help. Is there any last words of wisdom that you'd like to impart on our listeners today around EcoBricks, or just in general around reusing and recycling and reducing?
Well, I think this is a call to action as far as EcoBricks are concerned. There's a real big plastic crisis really happening, and as we go through our current pandemic, is it really starting to add up. So I would really call out there to have everyone help do their part to steward this plastic appropriately. My wife's putting together cleanups and not coming together in large groups like we used to before, but coming together as families and individuals. And we have some resources to be able to get you some rubber gloves and plastic bags and trash picker uppers and though you can use all those plastics that you find inside of water bottle and make an EcoBrick, it is a little bit harder if they're sitting in the mud, sitting in the dirt. It takes some time, and we definitely encourage you to do it. But if not, then to work with your local DPW or city to be able to take that trash that you're taking off the streets. For the most part, that we found that the cities are able to help you get rid of that extra trash that you might have, maybe a drop-off point at a DPW location. But of course, talk to the city first to make sure that that's okay. And then just as we move forward, this is very great. It's exciting to be able to still do presentations and come together as a group virtually and just look forward to other events like this. Definitely stay tuned at the housefactory.us events page, and I'm going to share as many events as I can that I'm involved in, but also other people involved in. I've got some great speakers there that we're editing the video finally and getting the final details done, and we'll be able to post that soon. So take a look at that and then listen to the rest of the speakers today. It's get some great people ahead of me, and just encourage you to stay tuned.
Great. Thank you again, Nathan. This is great. If you are just joining us and happen to miss Nathan, this is on Facebook Live right now. I'm showing my screen, I hope. Oh, no, I'm not. Now I'm sharing my screen. You can go to www.ecobrick.us, which is going to provide a lot of the information and some of the best practices that Nathan went over today. You can also follow them on Facebook for some of the events and just following the conversation around the United States around EcoBricks. So thank you again, Nathan, and we look forward to continuing to work with you and following your progress on this.
Great.
Again, if you're just joining us, my name is Angela Cleveland. I'm the Director of Community and Economic Development for the City of Amesbury, and we're excited about today's first ever virtual Eco Festival here in Amesbury. We are on our third speaker today, when I'd like to introduce Bill Clary, who is with InRoof Solar. This is, again, I mentioned that there are a variety of speakers today, and that some of them are actually based here in Amesbury, and this is one of those partners. We've asked Bill to join us today to talk about solar thermal and how they have designed, first of all, what solar is, and Nathan alluded to it a little bit, but I think it's important for us to understand how the sun works and how we're converting that into energy, both to heat our homes, but also to heat our hot water. But he'll also talk about a product that they have designed and are manufacturing here in Amesbury, which is really exciting, and how you can learn more information about that. So Bill, thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully if you're not on mute anymore, you can come off and I will make you a presenter.
Well, thank you, Angela. It's a pleasure to be with everybody. So the only trouble is in moving along is that I need to figure out how to get over to my screen.
There you go.
And I think we're getting there. So again, thank you everybody for joining in. I wanted to blow up the screen so it's full size. Anyway, it looks like it's okay.
It's
so
right.
yes.
Hold on, it's on the very bottom. There's a little screen. You can see it right next to where your volume is. Go down with the mouse. Now, right there, two over. Next one, right there. Click that.
Okay, it's covered up by faces. I can't seem to move the boxes with all the faces.
Go to the ribbon where it says slideshow on the top of your PowerPoint. Slideshow.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yep. And then from beginning.
There we go. Again, thank you. So Again, thank you. Yes, InRoof Solar is a company based in Amesbury. It was founded in 2016. The company is located in CI Works, which I'd imagine most people know where they are, in the old industrial section that's been recently getting renovated and cleaned up. And some of you may be familiar with some of the beer breweries that are down there, Nauticus and Great Wolf. So we're in one of the sheds. There. The basic idea of the business we want to create durable insulated roofing that uses not just unwanted heat in the house or cold in the house, but where we could actually use the energy from the sun to heat our home. And there's a couple different ways we've put together some products to make that work. So we designed and invented this product, and in fact we're patent pending on it. And we've received some grant money from the state to help us get going with this project. The team of people put this together. Fred Harkness is the owner and president and inventor of this, and Fred's been in the building and construction business for a long time, and kind of comes by it now naturally because his parents were both architects. John Delmar and Joe DiPietro. Joe still lives in Amesbury. John was in the area and is now remote, but does engineering for us. Joe is in the shop. Jessica Mulcahy is our COO, and then I just joined the group in the last few months to help head up sales and build the business. So what do we do, and how do the products work? I compressed these two slides, or images onto two slides. If you look at the left one, you'll see the sun pointing down on that blue shield. And the sun, as we know, has a lot of energy. And when that energy strikes a surface, especially a dark surface like a roof, the surface gets hot. And so what we did is we put some aluminum metal pieces with tubing on the back side of the metal roofing. And then we circulate water in that, so it absorbs the energy from the sun. And we can then heat up water, which can be used either through a heat pump or a couple other devices versus radiant heating. We can use that hot water to heat your house. With heat pumps, we can either have hot air. A lot of houses have hot air, or for older homes that might have hot water heating, there are now heat pumps that can actually give you hot water heating, so you can use your existing radiators. So both of those technologies are available. So if you have a new house or if you're retrofitting your roof, you can install these panels and get free heat from the sun to help heat your house. So that's the basic concept. The other thing we can do with our panels, which is shown on the picture on the right, is we can add what's called photovoltaic cells onto the roof. And these are thin strips, so they're not the big bulky panels that stick up, but thin strips that fasten right in between the ridges of the metal roof. And when the sun strikes the photovoltaic panels, then it creates electricity. And that electricity can go in and feed the electricity for your house. And the electricity can be used to offset or reduce the amount of electricity you're buying from the utility. There's a number of different ways you can set it up in your house, but the basic idea is you can reduce how much electricity you're purchasing from the utility. Again, it's free energy once you've installed it. So those are the two different ideas we have when we're looking at putting together our metal roofing systems. So to show you what they look like, here's a slide where we have a metal panel. The big panel, I'm looking at the picture up in the top left. And this is kind of a dark color, which is very good for absorbing the heat from the sun for heating your house. But you can see we have several other different colors. So basically we can pick a color for the roofing that matches your exterior or matches the existing roof to some extent. Lighter colors are less effective in absorbing the heat from the sun, whereas darker colors are more effective. So there's a little trade-off with the artistic designs, but that's what we're looking at. And then in the bottom right, we can see a house that was retrofitted with the metal panels, just as an example to see what things look like. So the product names, when we have the water heating, is called Nor'easter. And we chose that name because of the durability of the products from storms. We can shed rain, and also, of course, snow slides off metal roofs quite nicely. The insulation of the roof can be an R9 or R12, and that's just kind of an insulation value that engineers and builders look at when you're trying to insulate your roof. So those are some of the basic features of the product. And then we also sell the insulated metal roofs without the water heating. So those are the two options. So this is a little demonstration video we have about who we are.
The roofing and solar, as even though they are integrated into one piece, you might make the decision just to put metal roofing on your house, and that's a good value in itself. And even if you were going with PV panels, it's the best thing you can put underneath the PV panel because it's longest lasting.
As a homegrown New England company, we're aware of the New England architecture and the aesthetic that New England gives out, and we pride ourselves on really making a nice partnership there with integrating into that architecture.
5 years into a brand new asphalt roof that is supposed to be a 25-year project, you'll see staining coming down. If you want to help solve your ice damming issues, metal panels are a great way to go.
And if you choose to go through with an InRoof project, we can do custom colors, and it's really long lasting. We're looking at 40 years here, so this is going to outlast a traditional asphalt system and potentially add a really nice aesthetic onto your design.
So we separate the cost of the solar add-on to that, and then we say, okay, you're going to put the metal roof on. Now you want to have the solar, so we're going to add that component onto it. That's going to add 50% more cost onto it. However, you're now eligible for tax credits because your roof panel is actually a solar collector.
So anyway, that was just a quick video we had. And if anybody wants to see an installation, you may be familiar with Johnson Lumber, which is over by 495, and they installed some of the roofing, and with the top portion having some of the photovoltaic panels, but there's a large section that has just the water heating, and they actually use that heat to heat up the main building where customers go in. So that's just one local example of where we're located. So in terms of putting it on your roof, it's obviously best to have a southern exposure for your house where we put the hot water. Although interestingly, east and west facing roofs can also be quite effective in absorbing heat. We want to make sure that there's limited shading from trees. So if you are, there are a lot of trees that may not be a good fit for our stuff. And then of course we would like a pitched roof, not a flat roof, to install the panels. And we have a lot of different software modeling programs where we can investigate all of this online and kind of based on drawings that we could receive from you and from others. When we look at a project, we take a look at the roof, estimate the size, talk to the customer about what they're trying to do. We can provide a quote for all the equipment, for the labor. And then on our website, there's a lot of information available for federal and state tax credits or rebates you can get based on the water heating or the photovoltaic panels. And so that's available to everybody as well. So thank you for your time. I hope I answered some of your questions, but if you have any others, I'd be happy to answer your questions now.
Great. Thank you, Bill. I actually have one. This is something I didn't know. Why can't you put solar on a flat roof?
The metal roofs aren't great for setting up on a flat roof in terms of protecting the building from water. They work better where there's a slope so the water can roll off the roof or the snow. There's other materials for flat roofs. And then the other thing is, because of where we are, you really want the panels up at some angle. So, for instance, if you look at solar arrays out in the field, they're not laying on the ground, they're up on a stand, and that's so they're pointed as much as possible towards the sun to get the maximum efficiency.
Great. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. I'm just thinking of large roofs, like industrial buildings are primarily flat, so we have to come up with another solution, but that's great. That's great.
Yeah, at the Knock Middle School over in Newburyport, there's actually solar panels on the roof there, but again, they're on frames to point to the sun.
Caitlin, do we have any comments from Facebook or thoughts? Or actually, we still have two of our panelists on as well, Nathan and Sean. So just want to make sure we're mindful of that. Caitlin, any comments from Facebook? Oh,
She's
maybe not. All right.
Well,
so,
thank you very much, Angela. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate that. And thank you for all you're doing to harness the energy of our sun.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you. If you are just joining us, I'm Angela Cleveland, the Director of Community and Economic Development for the City of Amesbury. You are in our first ever Eco Festival for it's virtual. We decided to do this virtually, obviously due to our current situation. We just got done talking with Bill Clary, who is from InRoof Solar, and we are running a little bit ahead of schedule. So we're shifting gears to Sean Leach, who is not only on the Beverly Clean Energy Advisory Committee, but also is the founder of Green Beverly. This is consistent. We're going to be talking about electric vehicles with Sean today. Again, this is our fourth speaker. We're running a little bit ahead of schedule. Anything if you've missed up to this point, if you're just joining us, please feel free to check the website, which is www.amesburyma.gov/eco-festival. We'll be posting the proceeds, or the proceedings, I should say, of this for today, including the video that unfortunately we were not able to air earlier, which is why we're a tad ahead schedule. We do appreciate, though, that Sean is joining us early. Sean, I'm going to give you presenter rights, and if you want to go ahead and go forwards, then we would love to have you get started.
All righty. Can you guys hear me and see my presentation?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Excellent. All right. Oh, hi, everybody. My name is Sean Leach. As Angela said, I am the co-founder of greenbeverly.com, which is a community of like-minded folks in Beverly that are trying to do as much as we can to help move sustainability forward in our city and our area. And I'm also a member of Beverly's Clean Energy Advisory Committee. And as you can see, I'm a gearhead and a giant nerd. I love electric vehicles. I love talking about them. I've been driving them for, I think, 6 years now. And I love sharing my experience with people and hopefully getting more people to drive electric. So I wanted to give this presentation to sort of give you an introduction to how electric vehicles work, clear up some of the terminology, and hopefully clear up some of the confusion that people have with electric vehicles and going electric. So let's start with some terms. There's obviously a lot of different cars out there, a lot of different mixtures of drivetrains and forms of power in cars. To start it off, the most basic is just your conventional drivetrain. This is a gasoline powered car, a gasoline engine or diesel engine, and it derives its energy from fossil fuels. So this is just your standard car. A hybrid drivetrain is pretty much just a gas car that also has a small electric motor and a small battery pack that effectively turns the engine off periodically to keep fuel consumption down. But again, the car does derive all of its power from gasoline. There are diesel hybrids overseas. I don't think we have many over here. But again, it is a gasoline powered car. It just has lower emissions and it burns slightly less fuel. Moving into some of the more electrified range is a plug-in hybrid. And there are a lot of these available now. I think at this point, every major manufacturer sells a plug-in hybrid version of most of its popular cars. And what this is a hybrid that actually has a larger electric motor and a larger battery pack that works in tandem with the gasoline drivetrain. And what this lets you do is actually add a second fuel source for the vehicle. So you can drive the car as a gasoline car if you want, and when you come to a stop, the engine shuts off and the electric motor and battery take over. You can also drive nearly all of these on pure electric power only because there is an actual plug port on the side of the vehicle or the back of the front. So these are interesting because you can actually technically run on two fuels. You can run on gasoline or you can run on electricity. And that electricity comes from your house, from the local charging station, wherever you are, and we'll get into more of that later. And the last type is just pure electric vehicles. These are 100% powered by electricity. They have an electric motor or motors and usually a very large battery pack. This is the future of vehicles. This is where everything is going. Every major manufacturer has at this point committed to going full electric, some faster than others, but this is the way forward. And you guys are going to learn a little bit more about that in a few minutes. Just going through some of the terminology that comes up a lot with electric vehicles and even plug-in hybrids is kilowatt versus kilowatt hour. A kilowatt is sort of an instantaneous measure of power. So if you plug in a hairdryer and you turn it on high, let's just say it pulls 1 kilowatt of electricity. That means 1,000 watts. So every second that hairdryer is running, it's pulling 1,000 watts of energy from your plug. Kilowatt hours is a way to measure that power over time. So if you ran that hairdryer that uses 1 kilowatt or 1,000 watts, if you ran that for an hour, you've used 1 kilowatt hour. That's sort of the simplest way to break down how instantaneous power and power over time are described. You'll see kilowatt used primarily for the power of a vehicle. So instead of a 100 horsepower motor, it will be a motor that has 80 kilowatts or whatever the conversion is. And you'll see kilowatt hours for the size of the battery that's in the plug-in hybrid or electric vehicle. Most of the cars now that are pure electric have typically around a 50-ish kilowatt hour battery, up over 100 in some of the higher end electric vehicles. And the last bit is EVSE. You actually won't see this term used that much, but it's referring to the charger. And the charger being the place where you plug in the car. A lot of people don't realize the actual charger itself is typically on the vehicle. It's built into it. And when you plug it into the wall, all that plug is that you're using at your house or at the local charging station, it's basically just a really fancy plug. Your car is actually pulling all the energy from the grid into the vehicle. So moving forward, let's start with the pros of owning an EV. And you're definitely going to find that this presentation is slanted much more towards the pros, and I'll hopefully be able to explain why as we go through it. But the first obvious one is no more trips to the gas station. This is, it seems obvious, but a lot of people don't realize how much you actually do end up going to a gas station in a week and how often you are having to use it. And in the times we're in now, gas stations are disgusting places and the pump handles are really, really horrible. So the less you can touch those, the better. But yeah, you find very quickly once you start driving electric that you're saving a lot of time by not having to go to the gas station all the time. A second big one, and this is one that really got me interested in electric vehicles, is energy independence. When you are driving a gas vehicle, you are at the mercy of a huge company that is getting that fossil fuel from who knows where, and it's almost certainly overseas. And you don't have a choice. You buy the gas that is provided at the price they tell you. When you drive an electric vehicle, you have a lot of options as to where that power comes from. You can change your energy supplier on your actual bill. You can buy more green energy, less green energy. If you have a solar array on your house, you can actually fill up a lot of your EV with energy generated right on your rooftop. So you're not just limited to this one single source of power. You can actually have a lot of choice in where your energy comes from, and that is a very freeing thing, and it's a powerful thing. You can really get to vote with your wallet when you drive an electric vehicle. Another big one, which again you don't think about a lot until you actually start doing it, is a silent, smooth, and relaxing commute. Even the nicest, highest end fossil fuel vehicles, they still have a transmission. They still have a giant block of iron with thousands of explosions happening a second, and this amazingly complex series of parts that are making that move forward. And you'd be surprised how much vibration you're actually feeling from that as you're driving. And when you push the pedal down and you wait for those systems to come up and move the vehicle, all of that goes away with an EV. The second you press that pedal, you are instantly moving, and it's silent and vibration free, and it actually can make sitting in stop and go traffic surprisingly blissful. And I know that sounds insane, but I promise you it's true. If you get to drive one soon, or hopefully buy one, you will find that very quickly. Another one that seems obvious is there are no emissions at all. You can turn an EV on indoors. It does not emit anything. It will not output any sort of emissions whatsoever. Again, we'll get into this a little bit later on. Depending on how your power is generated, there will be emissions at the power company level, but those are changing rapidly. So that is something that you don't have to worry about quite as much. The next big one, there's really no maintenance. A lot of people love to say there is no maintenance, but that's just not true. It is still a car. It has tires, it has brakes. You have to make sure these systems are functioning correctly and you're maintaining them. But oil changes are gone, air filters are gone. Most of them have maybe a tiny bit of oil in some of the transaxle parts, but those are every like 1 to 200,000 miles you have to change it. And a lot of them are actually getting rid of that entirely. So a lot of that typical maintenance you're going to have with a fossil fuel car all but goes away, which is, again, really, really great. It's just another thing that saves you time and money. Another sort of nearer term thing that's happening is your EV will actually be able to help power your home soon. People don't realize that the battery in these electric cars holds a tremendous amount of energy, and it's so much energy that it can actually run a house for potentially a day, 2 days, 3 days, depending on the size of the battery and the consumption you have in your home. And bidirectional charging is quickly becoming a real thing. And soon you'll be able to come home, plug your vehicle in, and it will communicate with your house. It will know what times of day are the cheapest to buy electricity. It'll fill up the car when it's cheap, use the car to power the home when it's expensive, and then overnight while you're sleeping and energy prices drop again, the car will fill itself back up so it's ready for your commute the next day. And I know that sounds, sort of sci-fi and crazy, but it's already in effect with some of the EV companies, and there are a number of major power companies that are already piloting this sort of thing. So this is coming up quick, and it's going to be, again, another thing that can save you and your household money, and really use that EV the times when you're not driving it. Because if we're honest, a lot of us, especially now, are not really driving that much. So it would be great to be able to know that your vehicle is actually doing more for you. Another cool thing is you're able to refuel for really cheap, and in a lot of places free. EV power is still, or a lot of EV charging stations are still free in a lot of cities and towns. It's a great drive to get people to come to your town. Amesbury is ahead of the curve. You guys have chargers that I use often when I'm at work, and I know you have more coming, which is great. But even when you pay full boat for electricity, it's still incredibly cheap to fill an electric vehicle. I think gas would have to drop well below $1 a gallon to get even close to cost parity with filling an electric vehicle. So again, saving you money and giving you choice. You get to pick where you fill up. This is one that's actually really, really great for a lot of people, is used electric vehicles are dirt cheap. Tesla notwithstanding, because those are sort of on the higher end of things, even those can be had for good prices. First generation EVs that have sort of lower range, it would make a great second car. they can be had for as low as $5,000–$6,000, some of the smart electric cars. So, I mean, you can get these cars for incredibly cheap, and they are going to have a lot of life left in them. The battery degradation is basically a non-issue with most of them. And if you have a household with 2 vehicles, I mean, it would be insane to not consider getting an EV as a second vehicle. Even the cheapest, lowest range ones can still take you a very long way. My first car was a Chevy Volt with a V, and that's a plug-in hybrid, but I tried to drive it like a full electric, so I only used the 30 miles I had, and I only had to plug in once in 2 years. Like I only had to use that I only had to use the gas engine once in 2 years. I was able to drive everywhere I needed to with that 30 miles of range because I'd get to plug in when I got to work or when I got home. People don't realize, you know, if you have 100 miles or 200 miles of range, you can do a tremendous amount of stuff with that mileage. And lastly, on the pros are tax credits and other quote free money. Obviously, nothing's free, but there are still great tax credits to be had for most of the EVs that are being sold right now. There's also state funding. So I think they just brought back the program. If you buy a full EV, you get $2,500 back from the state as a cash payment, and that happens within 6 months. Or sorry, I'm going to say 2 weeks to 2 months of buying the EV, and that also includes leasing as well. Most of the lease deals will let you capture the $2,500 credit. And then there's also the federal tax credit that has been around for ages. Some of the manufacturers like Tesla and GM have actually sold so many EVs that they no longer have that credit available, but many of them have adjusted their pricing accordingly to make up for that. Now we're going to move on to the cons. Let's start with the big one, range anxiety. It's not a gas car. So you can't just get in it and drive 1,000 miles and only stop for 5 minutes here or there to keep topping up and keep going. You do have to think a little bit more about the range of your car and the temperature outside and those sort of things. But you only have to think about that when you're doing a very long trip. And for most people, most of the time, you will never, ever think about the range of your EV. You will get in it. It will be full because you've had it plugged in at home or you plugged in at work the previous day, and it has more than enough energy to get you where you need to go. So range anxiety, it feels like this big thing, and I think a lot of people might have it for a day or two, and then the more you drive it, you realize, oh yeah, I don't actually really need to worry about this at all. Another big one that comes up a lot is cold weather and the battery, that equals less range. And that is 100% true. These batteries don't like being really, really cold. They are designed to function completely fine in the cold weather. It doesn't hurt them. But when the chemistry is that cold, your range will go down, especially once you start using the heat, because again, there's no heat being generated by the EV, so it has to make it using the battery. So you can see a fairly big dip in range in the wintertime, up to 30% of your range. But again, those are things that you adjust to, and you can actually adjust your driving habits, and preconditioning the car can actually help a lot. So all of the EVs now, when you have them plugged into home, you can say, I tend to leave around 8 a.m. and the car can precondition itself off the house. So it'll use the house's power to warm the battery, warm the cab, turn on your heated seat, turn on the heating steering wheel, and you get in it. And because it's all been warmed off the house, you get basically most of your range right from the get-go. So there's a lot of really great technology helping to mitigate these things. And again, that's really more of an issue with the very early EVs. The current generation ones and the ones that are coming have so much range that you'll never think about it. Another potential negative is long trips. Those definitely take more planning. If you're going to go, let's say more than 200 miles, you are going to need to get out the PlugShare app and take a look and see where the fast chargers are along your route, and account for that 30 to 40 minute stop where you're going to be fast charging the vehicle. And you're going to have to think about where you can plug in when you get to your location if it's that far away. And yes, that is a little bit more work, but again, it's one of those things that you get used to really quickly, and you only encounter when you do a very long trip. Again, 98% of your driving, you'll never think about the range at all. I promise. And the other nice thing is the network is growing, and that sort of dovetails into the next point, which is the patchwork fast charging network. There is still a lot of gaps in fast charging in certain parts of the country. We are lucky in that we live in an area that is actually really well wired at this point. We have fast chargers everywhere. Amesbury has a level 3 fast charger in it at Stop and Shop, which is great. And that network is growing exponentially. The demand for charging is going through the roof, and this will be an issue of the past, I'd say, within a year or so, unless you're going way up into Maine or way up into New Hampshire, where it's tougher to find this because of the power companies. It's a non-issue. I mean, right now you can drive from Massachusetts down to almost Florida on the current charging network, so it's much less of a problem. Another one is dealers and some auto shops just don't understand EVs. They don't either want to sell them or they haven't been incentivized to at this point. So if you go to buy an EV, you might have a weird experience with some car dealers or certain car shops. There are some great resources available to you, like Green Energy Consumers, that can help pair you with car dealers that actually do get it and are good at it. Or you can actually seek out shops like Electrified Garage if you want to buy a used EV to have them check it out. They understand them, they can help you. So you've got to be a little more aware of that when you're shopping for these, especially secondhand. But besides the battery and the electric motor, the rest of it is a normal car. It's got standard brakes, standard tires. There's no magic. So the bulk of your service that you would need on it, any mechanic can do. It's not a challenge. The next one's being iced. So ICE is internal combustion engine, and I've got a picture of it down there with a Range Rover sitting in an EV spot. Sometimes you're going to get to a charger and there will be a jerk that has parked their gas car in the spot and you can't charge. And sometimes it's another electric driver that's a jerk, that they park there and they're not charging. It happens more than you'd want it to. Again, not common, but something to think about. You've got to have contingencies planned if you're on a really long trip, just in case there is a jerk out there, because they're out there. The next one is the upfront cost. This, again, is much less an issue now that there are so many more options available for EV buyers, especially in the secondhand market. But they typically do cost a bit more upfront. That cost can be defrayed by state and government incentives, and the promotional prices are often really good for these. I bought a Chevy Bolt not long ago, and I think I got $14,000 off the sticker price, and then I also got the federal and state rebates. So the deals are out there. Again, Green Energy Consumer Alliance can help you find those places to shop for EVs, but know that they can be a bit more upfront. But don't forget, you're going to save a lot of that money in your fuel costs, the lack of maintenance, and so on and so on. So you might pay a little bit more in the beginning, but the car is going to last a long, long time and cost you far less day to day. Poor resale value. Again, this was much more true in the early days of EVs when people didn't understand them. This is changing quickly. You can still get first-gen EVs for incredible prices, and I encourage people to look at them. You can actually see now in the Tesla market and even the Chevy Bolt market that this is changing. The secondhand ones are actually holding their value a bit better because people understand, one, they last a long time, and two, they are great vehicles. So again, it's changing, but car resale value is always a tricky thing. And the last major con is renters, condos, and cities. I recognize that I am very lucky in that I have a driveway and I have a charger at my house. A lot of the world is not like that. So if you live in a particularly restrictive condo or rental building and they won't put an EV charger in, it might be tougher for you to go electric. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but it would be tougher. Thankfully, most renters or most multi-unit buildings and condos have recognized the need for EVs and the incentive to put charging in. So this is again becoming less of an issue, and the same goes for cities. More and more cities are adding larger scale charging for people to use, but it's something to think about if you fall into any of those categories. If you are a renter, you live in a condo or in a bigger city without your own off-street parking, just be aware of the charging element of it and how you plan to work around that. Okay, some quick running through. How do you charge an EV? So the question that gets asked is, how long does it take to charge an EV? And the thing I like to say, which is definitely a joke, but it takes about 10 seconds. You get out of the car, you plug it in, and you go inside. That's honestly the most you'll probably think about charging your car. Again, 98% of the time. But the reality is it does take time to fill the battery back up to a certain state. Most people, you see, oh my God, it can take up to 24 hours to fill the battery at level 1. One, you're never going to really use a level 1 charger. That's an emergency thing. And 2, you're rarely going to fully deplete the battery in your car. I don't think I've ever gotten home below 30% battery. So you don't have to fill that whole pack every day. That almost never happens. You're almost always just topping it up. But let's just quickly run through the sort of levels of charging. So level 1, this is only 1500 watts, which is 1.5 kilowatts. I call this trickle charging. Every EV comes with a little emergency charger that you can plug into any wall outlet, and it will charge the vehicle, but very, very slowly. So this is a good thing to keep in your trunk just in case something happens or you're going on a long trip and the hotel doesn't have an EV charger, there's not one near you. You could actually just plug this in overnight when you go to sleep, and it will still put a decent amount of battery back into the car, decent amount of charge back in the car. Again, though, it's more of an emergency thing, or if you are not doing a lot of driving. I lived with a level 1 charger on my Volt for probably 6 or 7 months. It was totally fine. I don't drive a whole lot, and the car was parked enough that it regained the range it needed. Level 2 AC charging. This is what you see at most municipal lots, and this is what people install at their house. This is between 3,300 to 10,000 watts, depending on the charger setup you put in. This is what you're going to use day to day. You get home, you plug in the car. Typically, it's 4 to 8 hours from 0 to 100. Again, you're never going to be doing a 0% charge like that. It's not going to happen. Usually, you're going to get home, you're going to have just your commute will be taken out of the battery. And honestly, you'll probably get that back in an hour or 2 tops. Often you're going to get back to the car and it's full before you know it, because you're just topping back up those little trips you're taking, which is the bulk of people's driving. You're just doing short trips over and over again. You're usually coming back home between them. And as long as you're plugging in when you get home, you're always going to have enough range. Again, 0 to 100 is about 4 to 8 hours, depending. Obviously, that changes time of year. In the colder temperatures, the batteries can charge a little bit slower if the battery itself is cold. There's also smart and dumb chargers. Dumb chargers are literally just like an outlet. You plug the car in and the car just pulls energy from it, and that's it. The smart chargers are really nice. They hook up to your Wi-Fi. There's actually a photo of a smart charger in the corner. That's a charge point home. They'll hook up to Wi-Fi. They'll monitor how much energy the car is using in a day, month, year. It can track all your costs for you. It can send you a text when the car is full. It can send you a text if the car is stopped charging for some reason. There's a lot of really neat things that are happening in the charging space. One thing that's hopefully coming soon, and I hope National Grid does this soon, really soon, is there's going to be time of use charging. So you enter into an agreement with the utility company that if you set up your smart charger to know when the off-peak rates are, you'll pay next to nothing for the energy, because your car will fill itself when energy is the cheapest. So not only will you still have the power you need to get where you need to go, but you're going to be paying even less for it, which is phenomenal. And that will hopefully be launching this year in most markets. Again, we're at the mercy of National Grid on that. And finally, you have level 3. This is DC charging. These are the very, very fast chargers. You can see it pictured in the Electrify America stations in the photo above, the green and white ones. This is the stuff you're going to use when you're traveling. Typically, you pay per minute for these. Some states are going to per kilowatt hour, depending on laws and regulations. But you typically drive up, you tap your card, it turns on the station, you click in this big plug, and the car starts pulling colossal amounts of energy into the battery to typically get you back where you need to go in between 30 and 45 minutes. And I know that sounds like a long time coming from the gas side of things. But once you get out, you use the bathroom, you get a snack, whatever you do at a rest stop, you're going to find the vehicle's pretty much ready to roll when you get back to it. And it's pretty great. I've done trips all the way up to Maine, all sorts of places, and the fast chargers were excellent. They worked well, easy to use, and they were dirt cheap compared to filling up a gas or diesel vehicle. And one other note, in New England cold winters, when the battery pack is cold and it's cold outside, it will charge slower. Again, if you're preconditioning your vehicle and you get used to these things, it's not a big deal, but just know that in really cold temperatures, charging speeds do drop a little bit. Okay, so a couple last things to sort of close it off is, but I heard. So these are things that people have said, things I've heard that people use as excuses, and just odd things I've read. So I heard the batteries only last a few years. It's just like my cell phone battery, isn't it? Technically, the chemistry inside the batteries uses the same foundational elements that a cell phone battery uses, but it's completely differently built. It's much more robust. They're larger, and they have a lot more intelligence built around the battery to help manage it. So no, these battery packs last a very, very long time. Even the first gen EVs that had less smarts in them, people are still using those batteries 10 years later, and it's still not degraded to the point of being useless. And the sort of more recent to current EVs have such advanced chemistries and battery control systems in it that I'll be shocked if the batteries don't last 10 to 15 years with very little degradation. I mean, there are taxi companies in Europe that run fleets of EVs for their taxis, and they have 200, 300,000 miles on some of these cars, and they've had very little battery degradation, and the cars just keep churning. I mean, these batteries are incredibly robust. The next big one, and there's a kernel of truth in here, and it's definitely something to talk about, is an electricity generated from fossil fuels. Doesn't that make my EV just as dirty as a gas car? No, that's the short answer. There have been multiple studies done, and I encourage you all to jump into to the search engines and find them. But unless you live in Poland, where electricity is still generated from coal, there is no comparison. Even having half of the energy from fossil fuels, it's still so much cleaner than a gas car. You have to imagine every gallon of gas you put into your vehicle has this colossal pipeline of energy used just to make it and get it to you. And you're burning every one of those gallons out your tailpipe and going to get more every week. With electricity, it's generated in a central location and it's sent over wires to the vehicle. There's no middleman, there's no transport trucks. And the big thing is the grid is getting cleaner every single day. Renewable energy is the cheapest way to generate electricity, full stop. Coal is dead. All of these fossil fuel sources are all but dead. And the next 5 years, grids are going to get incredibly clean, incredibly quickly. So no, your EV is not as dirty as a gasoline or diesel powered car. And like I mentioned in one of the earlier slides, you also can control where your energy is coming from. You can opt into 100% renewable energy if your community does green municipal aggregation or community choice aggregation, or you just simply switch your energy supplier to a 100% renewable supplier. So you have choice. But know that even if you do nothing, that energy is getting cleaner every single day. So, any questions?
I just checked Facebook. I didn't see any, but I actually have a couple, or a comment and then a question.
Sure.
So I have a hybrid electric vehicle, and unfortunately, I'm not finding actually the Stop and Shop charging station that you mentioned actually doesn't fit my car. Why
Yep.
is that there are, and how do you know what to look for to make sure that there is going to be a charging station available for you? Because those charge point stations are the fast ones, and it's great, but if it doesn't fit my car, then I'm not sure how I'm going to be able to plan my choice accordingly.
That's a great question. So when you have a plug-in hybrid, the batteries are so small, the actual capacity of it, that if you hooked it into a fast charger at the rates they pump electricity, you could actually harm the battery. So a lot of those plug-in hybrids only use level 2 charging. So to plan your trips accordingly with a plug-in hybrid or a vehicle that only has level 2 charging, you want to install an app like PlugShare or any of those other EV charge station apps, and just filter out level 3 stations. So just say, only show me level 2, and that will show you the thousands of level 2 stations that are around. That said, there are plug-in hybrids. The Mitsubishi Outlander plug-in hybrid that has a big enough battery in it that they were able to get level 3 charging. So if you did want to sort of dip your toe into the EV world, you could get that SUV and run it off electricity or gas, depending on when you needed to do it. But no, what you're encountering is common. Most plug-in hybrids only have level 2 charging available, but thankfully level 2 is the most common form of charging. Level 3 is much more rare. But there are, if you go on PlugShare, even plugshare.com right now, you don't have to have an account. You can see the map of EV chargers, and it's amazing. I mean, it's everywhere. So great question.
Good. My other one is a comment. So again, I did this research most recently because I wanted to make sure I was making an educated decision about my car. So I would warn that, yes, it's a great idea to get a used electric vehicle, but I would warn against looking at recalls. Some of the previous versions of the electric vehicles, unfortunately, aren't as strong as others. Maybe it could be something related to the actual car itself, not necessarily the EV engine. So I would just, and that's with any car, but I would just make sure that people do their research on recalls for some previous or older versions of electric vehicles.
Yeah, I mean, it's before you buy any car, run the VIN to make sure that there's no recalls on it. Thankfully, almost every recall will be paid for entirely by the manufacturer. So if it does need it, they will often do it. I can say, because I've researched this endlessly, because I have bought a few EVs at this point, the only EV I would actually actively avoid is the very first generation Nissan Leaf. So from 2011 to 13, let's just say 2014 to be safe. They are a very early version of EVs, and their pack is not actively managed. It's just whatever the temperature is outside is the temperature of the battery. So those did actually see some degradation and a shortening of the life. Most of the other ones you can buy right now are going to be great. But again, just do your standard due diligence you would with any used car. Make sure that the recalls are okay. Have a good mechanic look at it. You know, are the tires okay? Is the alignment okay? Was it treated well? Does it have a service history, and so on? But you can also call any of the manufacturers and give them the VIN number, and they can help you figure out if it's been serviced and done all the recalls and so on. So.
All right, Sean, this was great. I learned something. We did get some comments on Facebook that this was action-packed and lots of great information. And this really was nice to have this kind of 101 on electric vehicles. So thank you for that. This is the website that you can go to that is where you can find Sean for Green Beverly. Again, he mentioned Green Energy Consumer Alliance. I wanted to mention that as well because that seems like a great resource to be able to do some more comprehensive homework on this. So
they're fantastic.
That sounds great. Yeah, I learned a lot from this, and I'm very excited that we can pass along this information because I think that it is something that people are still a little weary about, not understanding the technology. So, Sean, thank you so much for joining us. This was great. Well, if you are just joining us, welcome to the Amesbury Virtual Eco Festival. We are really excited about announcing our next speakers. Again, I'm sorry, if you are just joining us, I'm Angela Cleveland. I work here at the city of Amesbury. We've had a variety of great speakers today, and we're switching gears to the more natural environment of beekeeping. And we're excited to bring Anita and Brian Deely, who are also in Beverly. We actually have, it's almost like a partnership between Beverly and Amesbury today. But a lot of great speakers are coming out of Beverly today, and we're going to switch gears to them. They have a great presentation for us where they're going to be bringing us inside and outside. And with that, I believe, Anita, I'm turning it over to you first.
Hi, everyone. I'm Anita from Beverly Bees. I'm going to first do a presentation to talk about our beekeeping company and a little bit about the biology of bees. And then I'm going to turn it over to Brian, who is going to take you into the bee yard and talk to you about how to hive a swarm. Let's see. Hold on one second. All right, can you see my screen there? Okay. So our beekeeping company is Beverly Bees. We make honey and beeswax candles and skincare from our hives. We also do bee removal services and beehive services. So on the left, you can see there's Brian. He's our bee removal expert. So he is the one, if you get bees in your house or on a tree and you call us, he's the one who comes out. I used to be the state bee inspector for 7 years, so I have a biology background. And that picture of me on the right shows what I would do in a day in the life of the state bee inspector. I would inspect all of those bees and report back to the beekeeper about the health of the hives. This is our little bee truck there and our son Cyrus. So if you see this truck running around, we're zooming off to send the emergency call. This is some pictures of our bees. We have over 100 hives all over Massachusetts. We have a bee farm in Beverly Farms where we have some hives, and then we also place hives on companies' property where we manage them for companies, and in residential locations. So if you want to get a beehive on your property, we can place one there and manage it for you. This is our bee yard at our bee farm, which Brian will show you in a few minutes live. This is some of our honeybee hives. You can see the yellow boxes are boxes that we leave for the bees, where the queen will lay all the babies and the bees will store all their food in. And then the white boxes that we have are where the bees store honey that we can take. It's excess honey that they don't need. So you can see our hives get really tall. This is our host a hive program. These are some people who participated in that, where we take bees and we place them on your property and we manage them for you. So you get all the benefits of the pollination without having to do any of the work, and you get a share of the honey and discounts on our bee products. This is another one of our locations. This one has an ocean view. It's really beautiful. We also sell bees. So if you're a beekeeper who wants to buy bees, we're sold out for this year, but next year we will have bees and equipment. You can pick that up in Beverly at our bee farm. A lot of times we do beekeeping classes and talks. These are some talks we did for some beekeeping associations. The picture on the bottom left is a picture of me holding up a frame of bees, and all of that brown is the baby bees in that frame. So we also do live bee removals. The middle picture is a picture of a honeybee swarm on a tree. If you see a honeybee swarm, you don't want to do anything to it, call us or another beekeeper to come and rescue it. A honeybee swarm is a natural process of the beehive where a successful hive that survived the winter decides to reproduce by splitting in two, and half the bees leave with the queen and they find a temporary resting place. Like this hive and this swarm in the middle on the tree trunk here was their temporary resting place. And then from there, they'll find a permanent place to live, which could be in a hollow tree, another beehive, or someone's house. Like this picture on the left here, you can see these were bees that got into someone's house in Salem that we removed. So that they built all of this long comb in there inside that column. Some other removals that we have done, you can see the top left, you can see that is a big pile of bees. Comb, you can't really see the comb. That was underneath someone's floor that we removed. The bottom one was one at Project Adventure that we did a few years ago. You can see the comb Brian's removing there. So we will cut out all the pieces of comb and rebuild them in a hive, and then reunite the bees with the comb and rehabilitate them. The middle one was one that got into a chimney, and the one on the right was sometimes we have to rent special equipment to reach the bees. That was at Salem State College. We have the middle picture, that brown thing that looks like a hive box is our bee vacuum. So we have a special vacuum that we use that sucks up the bees, that doesn't kill them. And this was the left picture was a customer who called us to get these bees out of her column. And you can see the hive in the column on the right that we removed. So to date, we have saved over 15 million bees. There's about 40 to 80,000 bees in a honeybee colony. So we do a lot of these removals every single year. Brian also removes wasps without pesticides, which protects the environment. So normally if you have a wasp nest and you call an exterminator, they will come and spray pesticides to get rid of it, but we will actually remove the whole thing without using any pesticides. So you might be wondering, what's the difference between wasps and honeybees? So wasps build a gray papery nest, and that's on the left. And on the right, you can see a wax nest with honeybees on it. They usually don't build it on the outside of the house, but this is a great thing so you can see what the nest looks like. So you can see the difference between the wax nest and the paper nest. So wasps also, they are more meat eaters, and bees are beneficial pollinators. And in this picture, you can see the wasps and hornets. They're not really that furry because they don't pollinate flowers, where the bees down on the bottom, the honeybee and the bumblebee, are really furry because their bodies are designed to collect pollen as they go from flower to flower to pollinate. Also, honeybees, people always wonder, do you get stung as a beekeeper? And yeah, we do get stung. I'm kind of immune to it now. I've been stung so much. But honeybees, when they sting you, they don't want to sting you. They're really gentle because their stinger is barbed. And when they sting you, they leave the stinger behind, and they leave behind a venom sac that can pump venom into you while they fly away. But it also pulls out their guts, so they die. They can only sting you once, and then they die. Where they have a smooth stinger, so they can sting you. One wasp can sting you multiple times without dying. So they're much more aggressive than honeybees. So why would you want to call us to save bees or get a beehive in your yard? Well, honeybees are really important to the environment. If you didn't know, that 1 out of 3 bites of food that we eat requires bees for pollination. Here is a great picture that illustrates that. You can see on the left what the grocery store would look like with bees, and on the right what it would look like without bees. And unfortunately, bees are dying off at alarming rates in society. There's a number of reasons. One is genetics, one is pesticides, one is lack of forage. Those are probably the big 3 things, and pests also. But not only fruits and vegetables, bees also pollinate plants that other animals eat, like cows, for instance. So without bees, we might not have ice cream or steak. So bee products are also really beneficial to people. We use a lot of products from bees, and a lot of them have health benefits, including the bee sting actually has health benefits. The bee sting's on the upper left. The second one over on the top is bee pollen, which people can eat that. The third one with the white in the middle is royal jelly. That's what it's like bee milk. That's what bees make to feed the baby queen bees. And the one all the way on the upper right is called propolis. It's a sticky, like pine type that bees line their hives with that has health benefits for people. And on the bottom, you can see beeswax, which we make into candles, and honey that you get from the bees. These are some products that we have made from our bees. So you can see on the left there some of our candles. We also make lip balm and skincare and honey. Our honey has won 3 national awards for our sustainable beekeeping and for taste, the Good Food Award in San Francisco. So we won 2 awards in 2019 and 1 in 2020. So they flew us out there for this amazing award ceremony with the best food in the whole entire country. It was really awesome. In 2020, our Beverly honey won. In 2019, our honey from Danvers won, and our honeycomb. So this is a slide I wanted to show because you can see that whole row of honey jars. So we have over 100 hives, and we spin out all of our hives separately. And 1 pound of honey, which is what these honey jars are, has 2 million flowers in it. And the bees only forage about 3 miles around where their hive is located. Every hive, the honey looks different, and it actually tastes different depending what flowers the bees forage on. The picture down on the bottom right is what a full frame of honey looks like. So the bees get honey by collecting nectar from flowers, which is like a watery substance, and then they put it into their hive. They make their hive from beeswax, and then they flap their wings 12,000 times a minute to dehydrate it. And then once it's dehydrated, they cap it with a wax capping, and that's how beekeepers know the honey is ready. And once it's capped, it'll never ever go bad. So honey, they found it in the Egyptian tombs, and it was still good to eat. These are some of our candles. We sell them at Whole Foods if you were interested in getting them, as well as a bunch of farm stores. This is a picture of our honey candles from Edible Boston. This is how we make our candles. So we have a candle melting machine that we put the beeswax in, and then we pour it into these rubbery molds, and then the beeswax hardens, and we take it out, and you can make all kinds of different shapes with the candles. And when beeswax burns, it's clean burning. It's actually the healthiest candle that you can burn. It naturally purifies the air as it burns. It uses negative ions and purifies the air. It's also the slowest candle, the brightest burning candle, and it doesn't drip or smoke when it burns. We're going to be opening a store that where we're going to demonstrate how we make our beeswax candles and sell our bee products in Salem Artist Row. It was supposed to open in April, but now I'm not sure when it's opening, but it will be soon. So come visit us there. There's 3 castes of bees in the beehive. The top bee on the very top is the worker bee. The worker bees do all of the work. There's about 40 to 80,000 worker bees in a bee colony, depending how large it is. The worker bees are all female. The middle bee is the queen. The queen lays all the eggs. She lays about 2,000 eggs a day. And the bottom one is the drone bee. The drone bee is the boy honeybee, and he doesn't have a stinger. All he does is mate with queens from other hives. So this is a picture of the brood nest. You can see I'm pointing to the queen bee here. And if you look carefully on the left, you can see eggs. And then as it goes to the right, you see a white thing that looks like a little grub. That's actually the bee larva. So the egg hatches and then it turns into a larva. And then it spins a cocoon and it gets capped over with a brown capping. And then the bee turns into a bee behind that capping. And when it's done, it hatches out. It's like how a caterpillar turns into a butterfly. This is our website. We have tons of info about bees. If you want to find out anything, you can visit us there. And together, you can help us save bees, protect the environment, and save bees. A few ways that you could help bees is by planting bee-friendly flowers, which I have a really good article on my website. You can go to read about what to plant. Also, try not to spray any pesticides at all, because a lot of them are really toxic to bees. If you see a honeybee swarm, call us or another beekeeper to come rescue them. Support local beekeepers by buying their products. And if you want to keep bees, you can call us to get a hive in your yard. And now I'm going to turn it over to Brian to talk about what we have in the bee yard.
I just gave Brian the access to be a presenter.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Anita. That was awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing them live.
There we go. Okay, I hope you guys can hear me. Am I on? All right, thank you, Anita. That was an excellent job. And thank you everyone at Amesbury for tuning in. I thought this would be cool to just kind of walk around the bee yard. This is a crazy time of year in our bee yard. We got lots going on here. Hoping to show just a couple of different size hives there. So this is a big, huge one. Okay, now this one actually has several supers on it. This is one of our very strong overwintered hives. So Anita's gone through this and done a spring cleanup on it. This one is bursting with bees. Originally, I was going to open up this one to show you guys, but I have another treat for you instead. So this one, actually, these are the deeps. That's for the brood nest. That's where most of the bees are going to keep their honey, and that's where the queen lays all the eggs. These ones up here, well, these are the honey supers. They're just different sizes, but the difference here is that these are the ones we're planning on stealing from the bees and harvesting the honey. And then if you look around here, we've got some smaller ones. These are some of the different packages that we're putting in. These are brand new colonies that we're just starting. Notice they're only 1 deep, so they don't have nearly as many bees, and they all require different levels of care. But I just like to stress that, I mean, beekeeping can be done by almost anyone. It's not something you should watch a YouTube video and start. Unfortunately, some people do that. The best way to do it is to learn from a professional, like my wife, or even me in some ways. I'm kind of the heavy lifter. I get to do all the fun stuff. I catch a lot of the swarms. I get to do a lot of the removals, as Anita went through. Removals are hard work sometimes, a lot of ladders and things, but I really enjoy them. But again, anybody can do beekeeping. The cost of entry is not too high. We offer the Host a Hive program, which is a great option for people. But then if you do want to become a beekeeper, please take a class, learn from a club or learn from a pro like us. And we can get you going with that. So, as Anita described, during the natural reproductive cycle of the bee, sometimes they make a second queen, okay? Especially during the spring, for lots of reasons. Maybe the queen's not doing her job, or maybe they just get a little bit crowded. So they make a second queen. That queen hatches, she goes off and mates, and then she comes back, and then she takes half of the bees with her. That's a swarm. Can be kind of terrifying if you don't know what's going on, but actually the bees are at their most peaceful state there. They're just looking for a new place. So eventually they're going to form a tight ball someplace and then start looking for a new place to live. Now, when you see that ball of bees in a tree or something, call us. We'll come right over. We treat it as an emergency, and then we're happy to take it. So that happened this morning, not too far away from our house. So I was able to go out there, These ones were a little trickier because this one was on a fence post. So a lot of times, making sure I can get the camera on the bees there. There we go. So a 5-gallon bucket is a great way to catch bees. I don't know how much the camera can catch on that. But sometimes the bees are nice enough to form a ball in a tree. If that's the case, I just kind of drop them right in the bucket. It's really not too much more than that. This one took a little skill. This one was on the side of someone's deck. So I had to kind of coerce them into the bucket, which I won't get into. But they were good enough to finally go into the bucket. And I've assured myself that the queen is in here. It's been an hour or so now. They're throwing off some heat. I can feel the heat coming out of this. They're anxious to get out of this bucket. We use the nets, which enable them to breathe fine. And I've left them in buckets overnight. They're fine. But as a beekeeper, you want to get this into a hive right away. So I'm going to put that down for a second, and I'm going to try something here. Give me 1 second to get this set up there. Okay, so great. This is just an empty hive. This is called foundation. This is just an empty frame on it. It's plastic or it could be wax, but there's not much to it except that pattern there. So the bees are going to get to work and they're going to draw that out and they're going to build all that honeycomb with the wax that they excrete. Now, because we're beekeepers already and we have a lot of extra hives, I'm able to give them some foundation. Some comb. Now this piece of comb is great. You see this over here? This has some honey on it already. So it's kind of a free lunch. And then also it has cells in here already. So the queen can just come right out of the box, right out of the bucket and start laying right away. If you don't have that and you're going off of just foundation, well, the bees have to build those cells first, which can take a little bit more. And it takes a lot of energy. That's one of the first things to do as a new beekeeper, to wait for your bees to draw out the foundation. But enough said. So let's get on with the show here. Not much to this, actually. I've got the hive set up. I've got a bottom board here. Again, this is just 1 deep. I've got some pretty good comb right here. I've taken a few of them out. Unlike my wife, who often goes into hives like with just a t-shirt, I'm not as crazy. I'm actually going to put my my suit on. I'm going to zip up here. Give me 1 second. Bees are really peaceful. I mean, they do sting, and it hurts, but you get used to it. It's not that big a deal. Okay, so I'm all set here. I hope I'm still on the camera there. There we go. Now, first thing I'm going to do, I got my bucket here, is I'm going to give the bucket a bump. This is going to cause all the bees to just fall off what they were hanging onto and fall to the bottom of the bucket. Hopefully, you'll hear all the buzzing. All right, so here's my big bucket full of bees, and I'm just pouring them into the hive there. Give it a little tap. The nice thing about the white buckets is they fall right out of there, right? And then I got to just kind of shake them off here. I used to be so scared of bees. My wife really, dragged me into this because I like her so much. But now kind of at the point where, it's a lot of what we do every day. I've learned to really appreciate them. All right. Okay, got all the bees out of there. Let me just move this one more time here. Hope you can see that with my camera there. They're all in that box. Now, the neat thing about hiving a swarm, and this goes for when you do a removal too, the bees cheer. It's crazy. It's hard to explain to someone who's never seen it before, but, bees make like an angry sound, which is when it's an overcast, cool day. Sometimes you'll get that, right? But when you take a swarm like I just did and you put it on existing comb or comb that has a little bit of honey on it, they kind of like roar in appreciation. It's like what's going on? And then all of a sudden you hear this like you can tell they like it. It's like a dog doing a happy dance, But anyways, now that I got that, I'm just gonna put the remaining frames. This is a 10 frame deep, so I'm just gonna put the last ones here, some foundation as well. I do want to encourage them to draw out some of this new comb. Okay, so just align the frames. I got 10 in there. A couple other pieces of the hive here. This is an inner cover. This is just like a top. It also gives them extra ventilation and a way out too on this hole up here. And then this is called an outer cover or a telescoping outer cover. And this one has a little bit of metal there to protect it from the elements. That's it. That's how you hive a swarm. I guess my part of the presentation is over. Do we open it up for questions now?
Wow, that was so cool. I can't believe it. That feels special that you guys had that for us today. That's really great. I have one question, and I looked on Facebook really quick, and nod your head if you see any others, Caitlin, or give me the thumbs up. But so what makes them want to hive somewhere else, like a specific location? You said it was on the side of a deck, and Anita mentioned inside beams. Like what are they drawn to where they go and swarm again somewhere else?
Sure. I'll try to answer this, and maybe if Anita wants to add something, she's more technical than I am in beekeeping. But so it's kind of random in a lot of ways, right? So I mean, there's lots of reasons why bees swarm, but once the bees have swarmed, they're kind of like a big tornado looking for a place to land. And certainly some places are more attractive than others. But I mean, I've seen, trees are great. Sometimes they're up high for them. I've had a boat in Gloucester Harbor. I've had a store window before. Today was a deck, which was kind of inconvenient. So that spot is more just like a transitory spot. It just happens to be like where the queen selects and the queen lands. Now, I will tell you that sometimes the same spot gets picked over and over again. I had a guy in Ipswich that had an apple tree in his front yard, and he got a swarm in the same tree 3 years in a row. Whether it still smells like the queen or it's just blessed or what, I don't know. But yeah. And then as far as where the bees go from there, well, what they do is they start sending out scouts to look for a new place. So they'll send a scout. That scout will actually go out, and then she will walk the inside diameter and space and then of the new spot. Maybe that's your chimney, or who knows, a tree or whatever, a cavity, a dark cavity. And then she'll fly back to the swarm, and she does a waggle dance, and she says, hey, really cool spot over here. Then maybe 2 or 3 bees go out and scout that spot. Meanwhile, scouts are going to other spots, right? So whoever has the most bees with the most convincing waggle dance wins. And then the whole hive picks up, the tornado happens again, and they move into your house. And then you have to call me.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So we have a question from someone. Can you share any information about the murder bees we've been hearing about on the news recently?
Sure. Anita, do you want to take that? Anita?
I'm not really worried about them. They can attack honeybee hives and kill honeybee hives, but there is ways that you can keep them out using hardware cloth and stuff, because they're much bigger than the bees. So I don't think it's anything we need to worry about here for a few years. I'm not that worried about it. I don't know. How do you feel about it, Brian, if they come here and you have to remove them, the murder bees?
Yeah, am I on still? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, one part of our business is to help people with wasp nests. Now, wasp nests are not as glamorous, as wonderful as bees, but they do have a purpose, and it's a good part of our business. I kind of think if people are really scared about it, they'll be more apt to call a professional to help, right? So, I probably think we'll be extra busy when they do come up here. But from I'm not really scared of them. I might have to get a thicker suit. This suit works okay, but bees can sting through it. I've heard that murder bee or the Asian hornet or whatever has a longer stinger. So it'll just be a little extra sweaty, but yeah, I'm not really too worried about it.
Great. So I'll put up your slide while I'm speaking, just to transition if we want to get into, unless there are other questions that I'm seeing, but I wanted to make sure people have your contact information. But I did have one more question about hosting bees. How far away, since you're in Beverly, you're not that far from us, but I didn't know if there was a radius that you deliver and offer to host, or allow people to host and still be able to have that relationship with them. Is there a certain distance that you have to be within in order to host a bee or bees?
So we're growing, and we had even larger plans for growth before this crazy COVID thing happened, right? But that aside, at the moment, I have bees in southern New Hampshire. I also have bees as far out as Boxborough. So certainly all over the North Shore, Newburyport, Gloucester, all around there. We just tell people to give us a call. A couple times I've had people a little bit further away and we didn't want to do it. And then I challenge them. I say, hey, get a couple of friends to do it. And then, you know, if I have 3 or 4 hives in a little bit of an area, even if it's an extra drive, you know, it makes a lot more economical sense. That's the thing about the host a hive program is, you know, it's a lot of work, right? It's a lot of customer interaction, which is great. I love that, as you can probably tell. You know, I got to get out there, or Anita has to get out there almost once a month or more, depending upon the season and what's going on with the bees. So yeah, we do need to keep it local, but we're already driving all over the place.
Great. All right. Are there any other parting words that you'd like to leave us with today before we transition?
Well, thank you for learning about bees and listening to us, and save the bees.
Thank you both so much. And again, here's the website for Beverly Bees. We're transitioning to our next speaker. Before we do that, I want to welcome you if you're just joining us. We're going into, I think, our 5th speaker now. We're running a little bit early. Apologies. One of our videos did not work this morning, or this afternoon, I should say. I am Angela Cleveland. I'm the Director of Community and Economic Development for the City of Amesbury. And if you're just joining us, you can actually look back. We will post the proceedings from today's festival up on both our website, which is amesburyma.gov/eco-festival, as well as through the website or through the Facebook page. So don't think that you missed anything. We do encourage you to look back at this, though. There were some great speakers today around bees and electric vehicles and solar, and making EcoBricks. So we do encourage you to take a look at that. We are going to transition now over to Natalie, who is the Executive Director of C10 Research and Education Foundation. She's going to briefly talk to us about her work monitoring Seabrook Station, and then give us a really great overview of where we are with net zero living. What does that mean? I think we hear these buzzwords these days and not sure what that really entails. And so we do encourage you, if you are joining us on Facebook or haven't yet, please join us on Facebook to post questions for Natalie or future speakers. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Natalie.
Thanks, Angie. Can you hear me okay? Yeah? Awesome. Well, thank you so much to you and Mayor Gove and Caitlin and Nathan and everyone who helped pull together this great event. It's great to be here. So yeah, I'm going to tell you a little bit about C10, which is the organization that I run based in Amesbury now. And then I'm going to tell you about my net zero energy home, which is also my home office for the last 2 months, conveniently. So C10 Research and Education Foundation is a nonprofit that's focused on the safe operations of the Seabrook Station nuclear power plant. If you're in Amesbury or surrounding, it could be about 6 or 7 miles from your home, as it is actually about 5 from mine. And C10 stands for Citizens Within the 10-Mile Radius, and that is the emergency planning zone that surrounds Seabrook Station. It's a federally designated zone around nuclear plants. So C10, our office is in the wonderful CI Works Mill Complex off of Elm Street in Amesbury, and that's where also InRoof Solar and Blackburn Energy and some other neat green businesses are. So our core service is to operate a real-time monitoring network in the communities surrounding Seabrook, and we do this under contract with the Massachusetts Department of Public Health, something that we have done since the early 1990s. And why is that important? Well, nuclear plants emit a small amount of radiation as part of their normal operation, and having a real-time data collection outside of the perimeter of Seabrook, which obviously monitors as well, is just an extra layer of information and extra watchfulness that can help the state to track these permitted releases. And it could also help first responders to protect the public in the event of an emergency. So C10 also acts as a kind of a watchdog group on safety and security concerns at Seabrook. And for the past few years, we've been really busy looking at a problem of degraded concrete at the plant and calling for stronger federal oversight of this problem. So you can learn a lot more on our Facebook page, facebook.com/C10 Foundation without a hyphen, or you can go to c-10.org. I'm wearing my nice shirt. And we have a newsletter you can sign up for, and we also are a membership group, so we'd love it if you check that out. So also on c10.org, since I am also the web administrator, I put a blog about my house on there, right on the front page, and I encourage you to check it out. So if you do, you will see, actually, how about if can I do a share screen?
You sure can. Yep.
No, I can't, because I don't have, I'm on a different device. I have too many devices open. C10.org, unless you want to go to that, Caitlin, and show it on my blog. It'd probably be good for people to see a picture of that. I was having a little audio problem from the from my old laptop. So if you go to c10.org and then you scroll down, you'll see a picture of the house, which would probably be nice for folks to see. Also, if you're ever over at getting Dairy Queen in Salisbury, just turn down, there we are, turn down Bartlett becomes True Road, and there is our house. That's great. Yeah, you feel free to leave that on for a minute. So the short story about this house is that my background is in the field of building energy efficiency. It's where I spent a lot of my career, and my husband, Tom, actually is in IT. And we had looked around at existing homes and saw homes like the ones that we grew up with ice on the inside of the windows and all that. And we decided that we wanted to have a really efficient home. And we looked at different ways of building, and we ended up finding this company called Bright Built Home, architects out of Portland, Maine. And we went to them to help create kind of our green dream home. And so this home is a net zero energy home, and it was built as a modular home in a factory in Maine. What is net zero? Well, net zero is designed carefully to balance out the projected energy consumption and the energy generation. You can see on the roof of the house our solar panels, which are busy collecting year-round. And there are 27 panels on that array, which is 8.83 kilowatt array. This solar panel helps generate about as much electricity, in fact, a little more than what our house uses in the course of a year. And if you go to this webpage on our blog, I have a lot of links that you can geek out on some of the data on our energy use and all of that. I had done a deeper dive in looking at our energy use versus our generation a few years ago. And sure enough, we use, with the plug-in car, if we have a Chevy Volt, if you took that away, we would be slightly net positive. So the house is all electric. The only source of energy, besides the small wood stove that we use occasionally for coziness, it's all electric. So the heating and cooling, as well as the water heater and the induction electric cook stove, the dryer, are all electric. And the house is tied to the grid. We are National Grid customers, but no, we don't have a battery backup yet. And but when we lose power, the grid goes down, we lose power as well. But because of the way the house is designed, we lost power for a few days, about a year and a half ago, and that October storm, the house is able to stay nice and warm and cozy. And even our water heater, which is a heat pump water heater, stayed warm as well. So I was really thrilled to find that. That is the beauty of energy efficiency. The house, if you check the links, you can see that we have Mitsubishi heat pumps. In fact, Caitlin, if you want to give me controls, I will show you. There's my finger. Most of you have seen these. These are electric heat pumps. This is made by Mitsubishi Electric. And it's a super efficient device. We have these in each of our bedrooms, one for the downstairs first floor, and one for our third floor, which is sort of a semi-finished space. While I'm showing you the camera, I just want to show you one other thing, which is the thickness of our walls. You can see here that we have very thick walls. And actually, when Caitlin goes back to blog, if you don't mind, you will see you'll see a really a picture that I took in the factory that shows the kind of insulation that went in. Here we go, which is kind of cool. So, and in that picture, you can see rigid foam board insulation and dense pack cellulose. We were able to go to the factory in Maine and watch the house being constructed, which is really neat. It had all the plumbing roughed in and the electrical, and even where the outlets were and all that sort of stuff. So it was pretty amazing. There's a lot of pros and cons when it comes to building a house, and obviously it takes energy and materials to make a new home, although the factories apparently have less waste. Well, you know, old homes can be more costly to operate, less comfortable with draftiness, and even less healthy when it comes to issues like mold or off-gassing from whatever paints or finishes that are in the house. So our house got a little more complicated for a few reasons. One of them is that we agreed to serve as Boston Magazine's Design Home of the Year in 2014. And for folks that are local, you might have been able to even tour the house before we came in. I guess you can put it back to me, Caitlin, if you want. So I had a chance to see that. So the house was open for tours, and it was staged full of beautiful furniture and artwork. And now it is full of, you know, secondhand furniture and kids' toys, but it's got that lived-in look like all of ours. Anyways, we had the house open for tours because at the time I was working for a nonprofit in energy efficiency. Before that, I worked at a company at National Grid running energy efficiency programs. And when we were approached by Boston Magazine, we were really excited to have the opportunity for people to learn about our house and to kind of see that green can be beautiful. So that's what we did. And also on the bottom of that blog, you guys can go to c10.org. You can click on a virtual tour of the home and see it all staged up, but it will show you the outside of the home, which is built with cement fiberboard, which is a neat material combination of wood, pulp, and cement, and very durable and impervious to insects and that sort of thing. And you can see, you know, different features, learn more about the solar panel and the heating and cooling and that type of stuff. So let's see. The house obviously is, besides the photovoltaics, is oriented to the sun to get a lot of passive solar. In fact, on a lot of days when it's even in the 50s, it can really heat up in our house. So sometimes we have to you know, close the blinds and open them at various times because it gets a lot of solar gain, which is definitely nice in the winter. We also have what's called an enthalpy recovery ventilation system, or ERV, sometimes called a heat recovery system, and that makes sure that we have plenty of fresh air in the home because it is so tight. As I said, Energy Star appliances. So we got to take advantage from solar renewable energy credits with the state of Massachusetts. Massachusetts is one of the nation's leading states on energy efficiency and renewable programs. We have a lot of solar panels here in our state. And so we got to take advantage of a program with solar renewable energy credits. And I know probably many of you have solar panels, so you're familiar with this. But with this, when we bought the panels, we got some state and federal tax breaks off the bat. We did have to buy the panels outright, but they were projected to pay for themselves in less than 5 years, and they definitely have. So we actually, we get about $2,000 a year when we sell back the electricity that we generate. Every month, my husband Tom goes into the basement and reads the electric meter, and he can report that into a website, and then quarterly we get a check because the state of Massachusetts requires the utility companies to buy a certain amount of their energy from renewable sources. So we benefit from that. And Brightbill, our architect, projected that we would save about $82,000 in electricity over the course of 30 years between our solar panels and the energy efficiency of the home. So that is pretty neat. And, you know, we built this house not as a flipper, but as hopefully our forever home. But, you know, whenever we do come to sell, that's definitely something that we'll be highlighting. If there aren't even state programs to recognize the energy efficiency of homes, a lot of countries already give a score to homes or a letter grade based on the energy that they use. So, you know, the cost savings and the energy efficiency I love, but I also love how comfortable the house is, which is really great. So not everybody can afford to build a new house, but you can try to make it as energy efficient as possible. And there are programs here in Massachusetts through Mass Save and New Hampshire Saves over the border. I've got links again on the blog. And even with the COVID-19 restrictions, I know that there's still programs available. So I encourage everybody, if you haven't done it, to take a look at masssave.com and look at the programs available on energy efficiency for low and no cost tips that you can take advantage of. And you know, energy efficiency is the cheapest kind of fuel that is out there. So I encourage people, although solar is nice and sexy, make your house as efficient as possible before you invest in solar would be my advice there. So I guess I will give a few other lessons, lessons learned on our house before I'll see if we have any questions. I'm building a modular home, the old adage of measure twice and cut once. That's really important because, as you can see, the house is coming with things already like electrical outlets. We have some weird placement, like behind doors, where the light switches are, you know, all of that kind of stuff. You got to have really good project management and coordination between your builder and your architect and all of the vendors. So I ended up doing quite a bit of project management on the house myself from when we lived down in Somerville. So, you know, you got to really make sure you have a good builder. And I would also recommend having a lawyer take a look at your contract before you sign on the dotted line and start the work, because a home is probably the biggest investment that you'll ever make. So as many home builders or renovators have found out in their own project, you can expect things to take longer and cost more than you originally think. Probably 25 to 30% is, I guess, what I've heard is standard kind of rule of thumb. The other thing that I would have done, I mean, our house, as you saw from the picture, it's got a big third floor that is partially finished with a subflooring and just a rug over it. But, you know, it's a pretty big house. We have one 5-year-old, and that's going to be the size of our family. So if I had to do it over again, honestly, I mean, we were loving it during the pandemic lockdown to have the space, but, you know, we could have gone smaller, and that would have, you know, changed the whole profile and the cost structure of the house. And the other thing that I would encourage people to, you know, we built the house based on 2 comfortable incomes, double income, no kids. And then, you know, 5 months after we moved in, I had my baby Julia. And so there are times that you might want to be able to live in your house on one salary or downsize, you know, as people retire and all that. So those are all things to think about, what's going to be happening in your life in the next 5, 10, 15 years. So I guess that is my rundown of our home. Again, I welcome people to come by on True Road in Salisbury. If you want to see the house, if we're out in the yard, we will wave to you and show you around from the outside. But as you can tell, I love talking about the house, and I love the field of energy efficiency. So I welcome your questions about the house or about the work with C10 and our work for the safety of people and the natural environment surrounding Seabrook Station. So again, c10.org is our website where this blog with all the links are right on the front page at the bottom. And I want to thank you, Caitlin and Angie and everybody. And I'm happy to take some questions if there are any.
Great. Thank you, Natalie. Caitlin, were there any questions that have come through from Facebook?
Yeah, we do have a question. What's the approximate cost per square foot of a house like this?
You know, I would say if you go to the brightbuilt.org, brightbuilt.com website, which is linked on our page, you're going to find more specifics. They said that it's about a third less than at what's called a stick-built home to do it in a factory. I do know that we were kind of early adopters. We were a little bit earlier in their process of building these modular homes, even than I realized. So they've tweaked their setup and their arrangement with how they work with builders and the factories. And I think that they've improved not only maybe the cost structure, but also, you know, the choices of finishes that you have on things like cabinetry and flooring and just, you know, the base plan. Which is important to really make sure that so if you're going to do modular, I would really encourage once things open up, Brightbuilt has tours, and I know there's other companies too that do this. We have a couple of times opened up our house to open house where people came from across New England and as far away as New York and New Jersey to come and see the house and learn about it. So I would encourage that. But yeah, so I don't have the exact cost, and our house again was a little bit different because we did this Boston Magazine thing. But it can be a cost savings, and it's definitely a cost savings when you look at the life cycle cost, the operating cost of a house like this. I feel really bad when I see Facebook groups in the winter and people are really tormented about their energy bills, and I feel really glad that that's not one thing that we have to worry about with our home, because it can be a lot. So. Other questions from anybody or Angie? Any things that you?
I'm just listening intently. I love it. We built a tiny house up in New Hampshire, but it's completely off grid at this point. So I guess it's net positive. I'm not sure what that would be, but it's great to hear. You know, that's obviously not our full-time home. So, but it's nice to hear. Excuse me, residents that are in the area that are living net zero. So this has been great. If you're just joining us, Natalie Hilt-Treat, who is with C10 Research and Education Foundation, is wrapping up a presentation on her organization as well as net zero homes. So if you have a chance to go back to the proceedings for and a recording of today's festival, our first Amesbury Virtual Eco Festival, please visit our website at amesburyma.gov/eco/festival, or you can visit the City of Amesbury Facebook page for our recording of this as well. We do encourage you to do that. There have been some great presentations today, including our most recent one with Natalie, and thank you, Natalie, so much for joining us today. We're excited that you were part of this from pretty much the get-go of us organizing this. We also had a great presentation from Beverly Bees and a presentation on electric vehicles and thinking about kind of a 101 of what such electric vehicles are and about solar. And actually, it's Natalie's neighbor from CI Works and then we had a great presentation from Nathan Gray, who's been our partner in organizing this today about EcoBrick. So again, we encourage you to look back at the presentation. They're all in here, and we're excited to switch gears to our last. We are running late. We are running a little bit. If you're just joining us, Angela Cleveland. I'm Angela Cleveland. And our last speaker is John, who is Farmer John. And John has an organic farm stand here in Amesbury, so we're actually starting gears and ending our presentations today in Amesbury. We've been all over the region in Amesbury and Beverly and a little bit in Salem. But I do want to switch gears to John, who's going to talk about his farm and his farm stand in Amesbury. And John, can you hear us?
I can. Hi, Angela. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. I'm going to make you a presenter so you can go ahead and take off.
Okay. You see me?
We now see the go-to meeting. We saw you.
Okay, let's try that again. Okay.
Go back to you. There you are.
Okay, you got me. Great. Okay. Hey, thanks so much for inviting me. I appreciate it. So I'll tell you a little bit about the history of this place and what I'm doing here. So my name's John McCone. I've lived in Amesbury about 30 years now, and I bought this place probably 6 years ago with the intention of starting a farm. So I'm going to show you around a little bit. So this is Kendrick's Court. We're going to walk out to the real narrow street, and whoops, barely wide enough for a car. So this road leads out to Main Street, and this neighborhood was originally a farming neighborhood. All these properties along here were farms, and this road was actually the way that they got the cattle and their carts out to Main Street. So it's still just as narrow as it was 250 years ago. A couple of things that are kind of neat about this place is behind me, you're going to see a barn. And this is the last remaining barn in this section of Amesbury. If you look back in the history of the town, just about every house in this section of town had barns at that time. They're all gone. Over here is my farm stand. Okay, there we go, right there. And little one, but it's big enough for what I produce. And so I have produce that I do throughout the year. In about a week, I'm gonna start selling greens, radishes. I've got some asparagus, I sell eggs. And then as the summer goes on, I'm gonna be selling a lot of other things too. Hey, sorry about that. I guess we walked a little too far from our service. Anyways, I just wanted to say, look, if you're interested in doing some organic farming in Amesbury, there are a number of us who are doing it, who have small farm stands, and it's really not that hard to do it. There is a pretty good market for it too, especially now. People are looking for sourcing on their food, and they're looking for local sourcing and also organic food. And so it's a niche that really probably a lot of people could get involved in. And if you enjoy gardening, it's a great way to meet people and to practice what you love to do. So I wanted to show you just a couple of things. I do what's called no-till gardening here, which means you don't need a rototiller. Very simple. Just a few tools. All you need is a pitchfork, a hoe, what's called a two-way hoe, which is a hoe that cuts the ground. It's almost got a slicing ability. Cuts roots and it cuts weeds very easily. A regular old shovel, and that's it. You don't have to go out and buy all kinds of expensive rototillers and equipment. And it's much better for your soil. Your soil is much more productive. You have fewer weeds as well, and you'll see much better results. So I guess what I'm saying is try organic farming and try no-till gardening as well, and I think you'll like the results. So thank you for letting me come on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. John, before you jump off, oh, okay.
I'm here.
Oh, all right. I was just wondering if you could show us, if you could show the folks what no-till looks like on the ground, like without, like just put the camera pointed to the ground. Just so
Okay, so I'd probably have to walk out of range. But what I can tell you is it looks just like a regular garden plot. Basically what you're doing is you're pulling up the soil a little bit with your pitchfork and just helping it to get a little bit of air in it, and you're not destroying all of the soil substructure by doing that. That's what rototilling does, is it basically churns up a subsoil that nature has created to maximize the fertility of the soil. So every time you rototill, you destroy what has been created.
That's right. Yes, carbon farming is one of the newer terms that people are using to try to encourage no-till and nitrogen fixing plants in our yards, in our gardens, wherever that might be. So that's great. I'm so excited to hear that this is happening in Amesbury, and that it actually is starting to become a trend as well. So where can we find out more information about you besides your website? Are you You said you have your farm stand out. Is that going to be active relatively soon? I think you started telling us that before we cut out.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, my farm stand is going to open in a week. I'll have eggs and I'll have some greens and radishes, things like that, cold weather crops. And as the season goes on, I'll have a lot of berries and a lot of veggies. So you can go to my Facebook page, which is Farmer John's Organic Farm Stand. And if you Google that too, Farmer John's Organic Farm Stand, you'll find my website as well. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you so much, John. I'm so glad we were able to reconnect with you. And we do have the last slide here. This is Farmer John's. I think if you did a Google search for Farmer John's Organic Farm Stand, it sounds like that would be a pretty easy thing to find. Follow him on Facebook as well. And hopefully we can see you around this summer, literally, instead of just virtually.
Great. Stop by. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, we're coming to the end of the Amesbury, the first Eco Festival here in Amesbury that we had to do virtually this year, but it went well. We were very excited and want to thank all of our speakers for participating today and donating your time to relay all of the information that many of us need to know in order to think about how to live lightly on the land, increase our sustainability, protect our natural resources, and ultimately Mother Earth. And we really appreciate everybody's time. We appreciate Nathan Gray, who really was our partner in crime in this, as well as ACTV, who always helps us get past some of the technology hurdles that we experience through this work. But thank you all for joining us. If you are just joining us right now, please feel free to look back at the website, which is amesburyma.gov/eco-festival. It's also available on the Amesbury ACTV Facebook page and the city's Facebook page. So check into those two sources. We hope that you enjoyed this if you joined us for the entire thing. But if you didn't, please go back and look at some of the presenters. There's a lot of great information from today. And with that, we're going to end. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it, and be well and be safe.